there she is. Man, that thing's really turned over. Ooh. No clue. Yeah. That is a huge scene, wow. Okay, yeah, no problem. Oh, cool, I'm sure. It is on our, like, 7 right now. Or 8. I've still got an eye on it. Yeah, we're getting some video. I'll ask, I don't think they want to preempt, but I'll ask them right now. Where's that at? Oh, no, let me see here. Where's the scene at? Where's the bus? Oh, it's behind that building. Oh, there it is. Yeah, if we need to stay out here, we could. I got view on the bus. Sure, yeah. Yeah, I got the underbelly right now. Chopper to desk. For those of you joining us on Facebook Live, this is an overturned bus near Nellis and Cary. Overturned school bus. Oh, okay. We are, let me see. Let's see, is that our, yeah, it's at about our 6 o'clock right now. Yeah, if you need to keep your distance, you can. They got the red tape out there. That's not good. just said there was a fatal in that white car. I like our 7 right now. Yeah, you're okay. If you need to keep making wide orbits so that we don't interfere, that's just fine. You know, I'm trying to figure that out. That, it's not Rancho. That's not Las Vegas High, is it? I have no clue. I've never been out this far. Chopper to desk. Hey, are we doing any like preempting or cut-ins? I've got my mix-up just in case. Yeah, I've got mix 3 up on FM 2. Sounds good, thank you. They're gonna check on that right now if we need to do any live shots. Again, for those of you joining us on Facebook Live, this is an overturned CCSD bus at Nellis and Cary. We are keeping our distance because Metro has their choppers in the area. So a good frame of reference down there that I'm using is that Lowe's right next to it. It's all good. It is at, I think it's right off our nose. I think it's directly in front of us. Yeah, it's on our 12. Yeah, I can see the Lowe's down there, so. Oh, okay. They're doing anchor mic checks, so we might be going live here in about a minute. All right, they're telling me to stand by. I got a shot, we're good. And we are live. Beautiful, thanks for the hover. Okay, no worries. They're gonna come to us in just a sec. I still got visual, we're good. What is with these north winds, man? Okay. Okay. Sounds like we're live. they're closing up the Pop 10. All right, we are back on the morning blend. Get some video of this car. Set my drift. And again, for those of you on Facebook Live, this is an overturned school bus. You can see it right here. This is at the intersection of Nellis and Cary. Very large presence out here, and it appears this white car was involved. What's that? And again, Facebook Live, this is an overturned school bus, Nellis and Cary. Grab some other shots for him. How you holding up there? Yeah, let's see what's going on here. Chopper to desk. Chopper to desk. Oh, you know what? They might be going into their morning news meeting. Hey, just wondering if there's any more preamps or what our battle plan is for this. All right, they're going to look into that. Oops. Nellis? They're looking into that right now. Larry's looking into that. Yeah, sure. I still got visual on it, so we're good. Staying over by unnamed high school.
All right, breaking right now, a school bus crash and 14 students brought to the hospital.
Yeah, Chopper 13 is still up over that scene. This bus crash happened around 8:30 this morning right at the intersection of Nellis and Cary. The school bus collided with another vehicle. We're being told the driver of that vehicle was killed in this accident. Again, right now the number we have is a total of 14 children here. They're on their way to Bailey Middle School. Now, 14 children on that bus have been transported to the hospital. We know at least 4 of the children have been taken to UMC, and of those 4 children taken to UMC, we now know, we're being told that 1 student is listed in critical condition.
Right. Now, the intersection there obviously is completely shut down if you're traveling through there. If you're going to maybe pick your kids up, drop them off, and you're seeing all this commotion, what police are telling folks to do is head to the Lowe's on Cary in the parking lot, and that's where they will clue you in and bring you where you need to be to get more information.
Right. Obviously, a lot of parents right now are very upset. They're concerned, obviously, about the condition of their children, so that's the best place for parents to go at this hour right now. We have crews fanned out all across the scene here. We have Marissa Kinnison there at the scene. She's going to be updating us in just a moment. But again, to recap, this crash happened around 8:30 this morning involving a Clark County school bus and another vehicle. That school bus was heading to the Bailey Middle School when this crash occurred. We have at least 14 children who have been transported to the hospital. 1 student is listed in critical condition. The only other description we have for those other children who have been transported is that they have moderate injuries.
Yeah, and you can see the bus there flipped on its side in the shot from Chopper 13, and also the white vehicle off to your right. Now, earlier when this first happened, we actually had a couple store owners call in. You can see the tires right across. It was the person that works there at the tire store called and said that he saw students laying on the road, that the bus was flipped over on its side. So obviously very traumatic for those that witnessed this happen this morning. But again, 14 students transported, and we are hearing moderate injuries. We're hoping everyone's going to be okay, but we did hear that 1 student is in critical condition.
Yeah, we were told of those 14, we know at least 4 children were taken to UMC, and of those 4, that's where we have the 1 student who was critically injured. We're continuing to work to try and get updates as soon as we can. But again, the driver who was in that car, we understand, was killed right now, and that is the only fatality to report as of right now.
We are just getting an updated number that 10 students have been brought to UMC now. That number up to 10, and 1 critical. And so just getting some updates there as far as where the students are headed. And all this information, obviously, parents, people involved in the community want to find out more. You can head to the Lowe's parking lot in that area, and that's where you can talk with emergency crews.
All right, we have Yasmin Hassan right now. She's been tracking the traffic developments here. That intersection has been shut down since this happened. Again, this is in the area near Nellis and Cary. Yasmin, what can you tell us now?
Well, we're seeing even more roads blocked off in that area while more and more emergency crews get to the area. So Nellis and Cary blocked off right now. But now you also want to avoid Nellis starting at Cheyenne all the way down to Lake Mead. And then Cary also shut down in both directions. We're seeing closures starting at Walnut all the way over to Christie. Just another look at the area itself. And this intersection near Martin Luther King Jr. Elementary School. But again, these kids were not going to that school. They were going to Bailey Middle School, just to give you an idea of the area we're talking about. But that entire intersection blocked off and the streets surrounding that intersection blocked off while emergency crews are on the scene.
All right, thanks so much, Yasmin. Also, you know, we do have crews all over, as I said, as we had mentioned, Marissa Kinnison at the scene, and then Parker Collins is actually at UMC. But we do have a live picture up right now of UMC where you can see, obviously, ambulance is very busy right there, and we're going to get an update from him shortly.
But first, we're going to go over to Marissa right now. She's at the scene. Marissa, what can you tell us?
Todd, a little bit earlier we were able to show you the scene on Nellis, but I want to show you what's going on in the dirt parking lot right behind us. That is where you can see the school bus completely flipped over on its side. I was able to talk to somebody who said he saw this whole thing happen. He said it appeared that the school bus just tried to swerve and get out of the way. It all happened so fast. That's what he told me. Again, police are saying that this bus that you're looking at right now was completely full. It was headed to school. That's nearly 40 kids on board, 14 of them sent to the hospital. One is in critical condition. Again, the person in the other vehicle has been confirmed dead as well. So just a very terrible accident out here on scene. A lot of concerned parents out here, understandably, because it does look very scary when you walk out here as a parent. Just all the fire trucks, all the police cars, knowing that your child is somewhere around here. So a lot of parents understandably upset, just trying to figure out what is going on with their kids. We'll continue to update you live on air and online, ktnv.com. Marissa Kinnison, 13 Action News.
All right, Marissa, thank you. Again, that's a new tidbit of information there. Marissa describing as many as 40 students were on the bus at that time. Again, we're being told that 14 of those 40 students did have some kind of injury and have been transported to area hospitals.
Right, we did hear a total of 10 at UMC, and we do have Parker Collins at UMC as well, so we're going to go to him shortly. But again, looking at pictures now from Chopper 13, you can see that bus there on its side. The other vehicle is that white vehicle just off to the right of your screen, and that's how the crash happened. These two obviously involved, these two vehicles, the bus and the car, involved in the crash. And now we're hearing, like Marissa had said, that there were about 40 students involved in this one.
And unfortunately, you take a look at that white car that was involved in this crash, you can just see how badly mangled the front end is. You see there a tarp over what looks to be the passenger side. We're being told that the driver in that vehicle was killed in this crash. That is why you see that tarp there hanging over the side of that white vehicle. But you take a look at this school bus, and you could understand obviously why so many parents are right now very, very upset. We're being told that as many as 40 children were on this school bus at the time when it rolled over. This happened around 8:30 this morning. And those children were heading to the Bailey Middle School as this crash occurred, and 14 have been transported to the hospital. And
you can see Chopper 13 getting around this bus now. Look at the front. That looks like, I believe it's the front or the back, but the windshield there just kind of blown out. And then obviously, gosh, you can only imagine when you look at that picture, you see the fence also. It looks like, you know, the fence was there, but it crashed through the fence on its side. Windows are broken. Yeah, it looks like from our vantage point, that is actually the front of the bus. And I'm going to assume perhaps that's how emergency crews had to access the bus, at least from the front end, is to actually rip that windshield down so they could get to those school children inside. Right. I mean, you know, obviously, the school buses, how they're set up. I think most people have been on a school bus before. I know that sometimes seatbelts are an option,
Yeah.
but in Clark County, I don't think it's required. So we don't obviously know any of the details when it comes to that, if kids were buckled in and all that kind of thing. But looking again at the scene here from Chopper 13 at Cary and Nellis, you can see the white vehicle, the school bus, both involved in this crash, and we are hearing that the driver of that white vehicle did die.
And now as Chopper 13 begins to swing around to the back of the school bus, you can see this back emergency window also looks to be open. So that is how emergency crews apparently had to get to those children. There you go. You see close zoom in there. They could not get to those school children any other way but to go in through the back window as well as the front window. Obviously gives you a sense of what was a pretty traumatic scene that happened that unfolded around 8:30 this morning.
Yeah, and you were talking about getting them out of the front of the bus. Well, look at this. This
Right.
is, you know, how many times have you been on a school bus and looked at the roof
hatch,
and thought,
yeah.
how would I ever, I hope I never need to use that. And then look at this situation. It looks like crews used those hatches to get the students out.
And again, we're being told that 40 students were on board this bus at the time of the crash, and they were going to a middle school, so you can imagine how frightening of an experience this was for them. And certainly right now, parents are trying to scramble to get as much information as possible. We're being told that parents who are concerned should go to the Lowe's there right near Nellis and Cary. That way they could hook up with emergency personnel there who will let them know the condition maybe of their child, where they need to go. There you see some people there in the neighborhood beginning to gather as they just try to figure out exactly what happened here, and they are trying to look to try and get some kind of information.
It's such a scary situation for parents. I mean, you know, your worst nightmare hearing your kids on the way to school, and then you hear that there's a crash and kids are brought to the hospital. So obviously they have so many questions. Then, of course, we're getting onlookers, you know, people that are showing up, wondering what's going on, seeing how they can help. But this is a live picture right at the scene. This is where Marissa is actually getting more information, and she's done a couple live reports for us. And you can see, obviously, concerned people talking with emergency crews right now.
Obviously, parents want to know if their
Hi.
child was
Do you mind if we
injured,
talk to
obviously
you
what
as well?
condition they're in, and also what hospital to
Would that
go
be
to. At
okay?
this point, we're being told
What's your name?
that a number of those
Laylee?
students
I'm
have been
Marissa.
transported
Did I
to
say it right,
UMC.
Laylee? Yeah.
We're
Do you
being
mind if we
told
talk?
that unfortunately one student right now is listed in critical condition. The other 13 students who have been transferred to the hospital don't have a whole lot of information about them right now, only right now that their injuries are being described as moderate.
Right. Now, the Clark County Fire Department saying, you know, because more than 5 people were involved in this crash, that they are calling it a mass casualty incident, but that's just because of the magnitude and the amount of people at this point. We are going to go back out to Marissa Kinniston, who is live at the scene there at Nellis and Cary, and I know you've been talking with people and gathering more information. Have you talked to any of those parents or students that are there behind you?
Yeah, I've been talking to parents, obviously very upset out here, just very concerned for their student, for their kid who was on the bus. Again, nearly 40 students were on this bus, 14 of them injured. One of them who wasn't injured, right here, I'm going to talk to Laylee. Did I say that right, Laylee?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you were on the bus. Tell me about what happened.
I didn't really see everything. I just got to see like when the bus driver was about to hit the fence. Like I just saw it hit the fence, and then after that, I was like freaking out, and I was telling my friend, I was like, "What's going on? What's happening?" And like the bus flipped over, and like I don't know, like there was like everybody was just moving around. Like they opened the emergency exit, and we just got out from there. And then like after that, I just called my mom, and I told her what happened. And
Laylee, was a little bit chaotic on the bus there when that happened. Were people scared?
yeah,
Yeah. Were you scared?
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad you're okay. Again, 14 people injured. Triage here on scene, just treating minor injuries. Laylee here, one of the fortunate ones here today that wasn't injured. Obviously, just very scared over what happened out here. Marissa Kinniston, 13 Action News.
All right, thanks so much, Marissa. We're waiting right now for a briefing from officials there at the scene, and as soon as they start to talk, we'll go out to them. But I believe we're going to Parker.
Yeah, we're going to check in right now. Parker Collins right now is at UMC. Parker, what can you tell us?
We just got an update from hospital officials, and as you can see behind me, it's a lot going on over here. They've blocked off the entrance. They've got a lot of flashing lights, and more ambulances have been showing up to the front entrance. We know in total there are 10 kids being treated here right now. I think the most important thing is one of them is critical. The others, a lot of them can walk, but they're hurt. They are getting treated, but again, we know one kid is critical here at the hospital. We also know that more are on the way, so 10 total, more are coming this way. Again, if you come out here live, you see the police. There's an officer right there at the entrance kind of letting people in, not letting certain people in. I have seen family coming here trying to see those kids who are being treated. They're walking in there. They're being guided in there, rather, I should say. So in total, we know 10 are being treated, more on the way, and 1 critical here at UMC. Reporting live, Parker Collins, 13 Action News.
All right, Parker, thank you. Right now up on your screen, you just saw there, we are getting ready for a media briefing here that's expected to happen momentarily, sort of fill us in as best they can with whatever details they have.
Yeah, Larry Hatfield getting ready to speak with us here shortly. It looks like he's just kind of getting adjusted, waiting for all the camera crews to get ready so that he can give everyone the most updated information. Obviously, such a big scene there with triage set up, emergency crews, and obviously a lot of different police and ambulance services there, fire crews on the scene that responded to this mass casualty incident is what they're calling it, because it involved more than 5 people.
All right, so again, let's sort of recap where we are. This school bus crash happened around 8:30 this morning. It was involving a school bus with about 40 children on board at the time. They were heading to the Bailey Middle School. That bus then crashed with another vehicle, a white car there at the intersection. The driver of that car has been killed, and of the 40 students on board at the time, we're being told that perhaps as many as 14 have been transported to area hospitals, many of them being diverted to UMC. We're being told at least 1 student right now is enlisted in critical condition. The other injuries only being described as moderate, and we are waiting right now a press conference to give us the most updated information.
You know, and hats off to the emergency crews and the triage tents and everything set up happened so quickly, but it shows that, you know, they're ready and this is the plan that they have in place when there is an incident that does involve more than 5 people. And they have been as organized as they possibly can, getting parents to go to the Lowe's on Cary in the parking lot there to get information to them. And obviously you still see so many people at the scene, you know, wondering what happened. And of course, you see a school bus tipped off on its side and you automatically fear the worst.
Yeah, right. And so you have to hope that of these students who have been transported to the hospital, you hope that most of their injuries are superficial, maybe some cuts and bruises. We'll try and wait and figure out some of those details as our breaking news here continues to develop this morning.
Again, we're waiting a media briefing that's going to start here just in hopefully within the next minute or so, and we're going to bring that to you live. You can see camera crews there getting ready and police getting ready to speak with us and give us an update on the situation. And so then we'll have all the details. But Marissa's been out there doing a great job. She just talked to a student who was on the bus, in fact, and you know, that student's obviously saying it was very scary, seemed a little shy, obviously a little nervous, and probably a little shaken up. Saying that she actually got out by one of the emergency exits there. One of the emergency exits that when we all get on buses we hope to never use, but they had to use that today.
Right, and for traffic purposes here, this whole intersection, as you can imagine, is shut down right now. Yasmin Hassan has been following this angle of the story since this morning. And Yasmin, I don't know, what can you fill us in on anything new, what's happening now with traffic?
Maps just within the last few minutes, because more streets are being shut down right at the intersection and around the intersection. Again, Nellis and Cary shut down, but now we're seeing Nellis shut down starting at Nellis, Oasis Lane, that's just north of Cheyenne, and then all the way down to Lake Mead we're seeing closures. So we're also seeing Cary shut down starting at Walnut over to Christie. If you do need to drive through this area, Lake Mead is open, Lamb is open, Cheyenne again open, but you're definitely going to want to avoid the area. You can see that cars are being forced to turn around out here. Officers are blocking everyone away from this intersection as crews are out there, triage set up out there. So a huge scene. Officers just want to give emergency crews as much room as possible to work. So you're going to want to avoid Nellis and Cary this morning.
Thank you, Yasmin, so much. We're obviously working to get more information from police that are about to give us a media briefing, but we did just get an update from our crews.
Yeah, we do understand that now all 14 children who were transported to the hospital were all taken to UMC. So again, we have 14 children who were on board the bus at the time this morning, all taken to UMC. Of the 14, 1 listed in critical, the others being described as having moderate injuries.
Okay, so you're looking at live pictures from Chopper 13. Pretty incredible pictures there of this school bus tipped on its side, emergency exits, and looks like the front windows there of that bus smashed as they work to get about 40 students off this bus. Again, this is the intersection of Nellis and Cary.
And we're just being told that our anchor Beth Fisher is also there live at the scene. We believe Beth is at the Lowe's. That's where parents have been told to go if they're concerned about their children. Can we go to Beth?
Well, yeah, Todd and Dana, so I just arrived here about 30 minutes ago, and you can imagine the parents were gathering and they were frightened and upset, very confused about what was happening. They knew their children had been involved in some sort of accident, but they didn't know what kind of condition they were in. I spoke with one father. Hopefully we can roll that sound for viewers, who said he was absolutely unsure of whether his son was safe. All right, we'll work at getting that sound for you. So these tents are where family members were gathering, and you can see they're fairly empty right now. That's because Metro, one by one, has been calling families by their names, pulling them off to reunite them with their children. So we saw a lot of panic on the faces of parents, but they seemed fairly like they were trying to hold it together, waiting to hear word. They got an emergency phone call, knew that their children had been involved in some sort of accident. So this is the place where parents have been coming to find out, you know, is my child safe, and to try to get reunited. Metro's been doing a great job, and the Clark County Fire Department have just methodically going parent by parent, asking for names, walking them over. They have the children on a school bus, those who were not injured, and they're slowly reuniting them with family members. But you can imagine, until you lay eyes on your kids, it's very frightening, and these parents are certainly rattled, and we understand that. So we've been trying to give them space, but also our thoughts are certainly with all these family members. Very, very upsetting day for them. So I am right next to where the press conference is going to take place with Ken Young with Metro. We've been told that he'll be coming up any minute now to give us the very latest information that Metro has. But again, an incredibly calm, organized scene here from Clark County Fire and Metro as they very carefully try to reunite families with their children. So that is the very latest from here. I'm going to send it back into the studio. I'll wave at you the moment that press conference begins, and we'll bring it to our viewers live.
Yeah, certainly, Beth. Those of us who are parents can just understand just the frightening panic that a lot of these parents are dealing with right now as they wait to try and get the best available information about their children. We're also being told of those 14 students taken to UMC, we're being told their ages range between 11 and 16 years old. Parker Collins right now is at UMC. Let's go back to him and check in. Parker.
We just got another update from hospital officials. I'm going to step out so you can see what we're looking at right now. Since we last were on the air over here, we've seen more parents, in fact, showing up to the hospital. We know in total now 14 kids are being treated here. Like you said, between the ages of 11 and 16, 2 more are on the way. Now, of all these, 1 is in critical at this point. They can't say yet if that child is in surgery or what exactly is going to happen there. They're just trying to see how bad those injuries are to see where they're going. As for where the parents are, they're saying they're trying to make sure the parents can be right by the bedside, but it just depends on the situation. And if the parents do want to come here, they're kind of guiding them through the entrance here. As you can see, there are police walking them through, kind of asking them, how are you related to these victims? Again, 14 in total here, 1 critical, and we do know that 2 more are headed this way to UMC. Reporting live, Parker Collins, 13 Action News.
Hey, Parker, I don't know, can you hear me just real quick? Any indication? I know you just got to the scene there. You're doing a great job trying to get whatever information you can, but any indication right now of the 13 students who are said to have moderate injuries? Any description available at all right now as to what would be the extent or range of those injuries that we're talking about?
She wouldn't really go into too much detail on those injuries. She would say non-life-threatening. Some of them are able to walk, but again, really just kind of keeping it bare bones. They're able to survive. Again, 1 is in critical, but she couldn't give too many details about those injuries.
All right, Parker,
Thanks,
thank
Parker.
you.
He's obviously going to be there, camped out in front of UMC and talking with officials, and he'll keep us posted on the conditions of the students as he gets more information.
Again, Chopper 13, you're looking live right now. This is the intersection right near Nellis and Cary. A school bus crash occurred about 8:30 this morning. About 40 children were on board at the time. That bus collided with a white vehicle. We're being told the driver in that vehicle was killed. Of the 40 students who were on board at the time, 14 have been taken to the hospital. 13 listed with moderate injuries, 1 in critical condition. We're being told the ages of those students range between 11 and 16 years old.
And Beth, was located at the Lowe's parking lot where parents were sent to get more information, and we're standing by for Ken Young to do a media briefing with us from Metro, and she's going to obviously let us know as soon as that happens. We'll be taking that live, and that's where we'll get a lot of the fine details on exactly what happened and where everything stands at this point.
Yeah, we can only surmise by looking at the white vehicle that obviously this happened at a decent rate of speed, because the white vehicle involved in this crash, you can't see it right now on your screen, was pretty severely mangled. So that gives you some indication of just, how bad this accident was.
Yeah, and you look, and you go, how could that, crash, tip that bus over? But it looks like the bus either lost control or whatever, veered off the road. It smashed through a fence and then landed on its side. And you can see that those emergency hatches were open to get the students out of the bus. And again, 14 students taken to the hospital out of the 40 students that were on the bus.
Yeah, and we've been told that that bus overturned. We're not hearing any sort of description that it flipped over, so that might be in larger scope of things. A bit of good news.
Yeah.
Marissa right now is on the ground there at the scene. Let's go back and check in with her.
We were on that side and they told us to go.
Okay. All right, looks like Marissa might be talking with some folks there. There she is. Obviously.
Sorry, guys, I was actually just talking to a parent right now. I want to show you something. This is a bus here that just arrived on scene. It's actually filled with parents. These are all parents that either weren't able to get to Nellis and Carey or may have been at another location. They loaded all the parents up, transported them here to make sure that they would be able to reunite with their kids. I was just talking to a parent there on scene, so she's still trying to figure out where her kid is here. Again, I am still waiting to get some more information on police on how they are transporting these parents. But if you are a parent, maybe a grandparent or a friend, I have talked to those people here on scene as well, that is just trying to get to their kid, or maybe a nephew, grandkid, anything. Just know that police and fire here on scene are making they're doing everything they can to make sure that these parents are reunited with their kids here. That's the latest. Back to you.
Thanks so much, Marissa. Obviously keeping us posted there, and she's out there with a lot of the families that are showing up to the scene and some of the students that were actually got off the bus but are doing okay and did not need to go to the hospital. We talked with one earlier.
Right, and as you could tell from that scene there, just a large scene, a lot of emergency personnel there at the location of Nellis and Carey. Just take a look at that school bus we saw before. The emergency access that these guys had to use to get to those children was in full use this morning. As we kind of, Chopper 13 gets a closer look here at the back of the school bus, you can see the back window was either kicked out or ripped out, and those hatches that you see typically on school buses that are on the ceiling, they too were opened up. That's apparently how emergency personnel were able to access those children and pull them out of the school bus this morning.
Yeah, and you and I were just saying, you've seen them for years,
Yes.
you ride the bus and you go, what would I ever need that for? Well, here's a perfect situation where it did get, the students off safely. Obviously, we do have some injuries, but right now there were 14 at the hospital, and we're hearing mostly moderate injuries. And so, fingers crossed, there's only one person in critical condition right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, when you hear that 40 kids were on that bus and you take a look at it, I know when we first saw these images from Chopper 13, we were very, very concerned, and we still are very concerned. But considering that you had 40 students and only right now 14 had to be treated at an area hospital, that is at least some bit of relatively good news, given the traumatic level of events that just unfolded this morning.
Yeah, Parker was at UMC, and he was saying most of the students were able to walk on their own and all that kind of thing. And so he's trying to, of course, get more information on their conditions when he can, but little information at a time. And they do have police there at the scene of UMC as well, trying to get that information to parents. A lot of parents just showing up, not really knowing where to go. And I can only imagine maybe possibly some parents had 2 students on a bus, brother and sister, or heading to Bailey Middle School. And so we're trying to get all the information out as much as we can. And Beth is over at the Lowe's parking lot just down the street there on Carey, and that's where they sent a lot of the families to get more information. And they're about to start a press conference shortly. We're waiting for that.
Yeah, and Yasmin Hassan has been following the traffic developments right there. She is telling us that intersection obviously is closed down, but now we're beginning to see sort of traffic back up in that surrounding area. So this is certainly an area that people want to try and avoid at this hour.
Let's head over to Yasmin and actually just take a look around that area as we wait for that media briefing to start. Because, Yasmin, I know obviously a lot of people traveling as we approach lunch hour over on the east side, Nellis and Cary.
Well, we were just being told, I'm sorry, Yasmin,
sorry.
we're being told the press conference is just about to begin. Do we have that right now? Okay, let's go to that press conference. I'm sorry, Yasmin. Hold on for 1 second. Let's listen in on that press conference.
Our emergency responders that are here working in a unified command. We also want to thank our community partners, Lowe's, for their quick assistance with us with space and some of the basic needs that we need here to sustain. All parents are in the process of being reunited with their students at this time, as well as making notifications to those the students that were transported. So we're in that particular process right now. The actual investigation is still going on as it relates to the actual accident. That information will come out at a later time.
Is there a phone number that parents can call if they're concerned and watching this right now?
Okay, all parents, a parent link message was sent out, so parents can access parent link, where basic information. Parking lot, there will be personnel that will point them in the right direction to get them unified with their kids.
Captain Young, with the injuries, the critical injury and the fatal, were those two people in the same car, that white car?
The critical was in the actual vehicle, yeah, so there was no criticals that we're aware of on the actual bus.
What kind of injuries were reported then from the students on the bus?
I don't have an assessment of actual injuries. They were triaged and sent over to our local emergency centers right now.
So the fatal is the driver of the white car?
Correct.
And do you have age or?
No, I don't. I don't have that information at this time.
Any signs of alcohol or anything like that?
The investigation is just starting, so I don't have that. That information will come at a later date.
16 students transported, just one in critical?
Correct. And the critical was not on the bus.
Was the bus driver the normal bus driver for that route?
That I don't know. I don't have that information.
And there was only two people inside that white vehicle?
Yes. Two people inside the vehicle.
And the minor was the one who was critically injured?
Inside of the vehicle, the passenger vehicle, yes.
We always hear that seatbelts on school buses aren't a good idea because the seats itself protects the kids. Is this one of those instances where the kids walked off because they weren't trapped by something?
That I don't know. That'll be a part of the investigation when they look at the point of impact, when they look at those types of things. Our biggest concern right now is that, for the most part, kids are safe. We want to send a special shout out to the driver who responded quickly in getting the kids off the bus and assisting getting information out. So a great response from our driver, and we send our prayers out to the driver at this point.
Was the critically injured minor also a Bailey Middle School student?
No.
Do you have any idea when this intersection will be opened back up? How long you guys will be out?
No, I don't know. Like I said, they're in the process now of doing the investigation. That could take a while, and you would want them to take as much time as they need in a situation like this.
Captain Young, there's a bus right here. We were told filled with parents. Is that correct? And
what you see behind you is a bus that we've set up for parents that are coming to the scene to give them a cool place as we try and unite them with their kids. We also have a secondary bus where some of our students that have not been united with their parents yet. So we're providing as much shelter and safety as we can for the parents and students.
How many children have not been reunited with their parents?
It's less than 10 at this point. I don't have an actual number, but I know it's less than 10.
Will any of the students be taken back to school, or are they all being released?
That'll be up to the parents.
But school is then proceeding as normal over Bailey?
At the actual school site, yes, school is going on as normal. And so, at this point, we're taking care of the kids that are here and trying to reunite with the parents. Okay? All right, thank you, and we'll be back at a later date to update as much as we can. Thank you.
All right, and that was Captain Ken Young with the Clark County School Police Department giving us an update on the accident here at the intersection of Nellis and Cary.
Yeah, I think so far, right now, as best as I could understand there during that press briefing, is what we're being told is that there were actually two people inside that white vehicle. One person was killed, the other transferred to the hospital. That person is listed in critical condition. So we're going to try and figure out if only one person is in critical condition, and that being the person that was in that vehicle, or now we're talking about two people who are in critical condition, that being the person that was in that vehicle and one of the students. So that's something we're going to try and get clarified here in the next couple of minutes. We have Marissa Kinnison there live at the scene, as well as our anchor Beth Fisher trying to go through those details. But again, the Clark County School District Police, they're trying to fill us in as best as they can. Obviously, right now, the investigation into why this crash occurred, who may have been at fault, all that right now is pretty much secondary. At this point, their focus right now is obviously on the children and those who were injured.
Yeah, and this intersection, obviously with the investigation ongoing, there's such a big accident involving the two vehicles, all the students and a school bus. This area is going to be shut down. I would just, call it off for the rest of the day. So keep that in mind. Also wanted to let you know the ages of the students that were taken to the hospital, 11 to 16 years old. We're hearing, and again, 14 at UMC. So we've got Beth at the Lowe's parking lot. That's where parents were sent to get more information. Beth, what have you learned?
Yeah, well, Dana, we have just heard from Ken Young with the Clark County School District that fewer than 10 kids have not been reunited with their parents yet. So it is an ongoing process as parents come here. We're right outside the Lowe's location where Lowe's has been delivering food and water and whatever they can to try and comfort these parents. But again, there are still about 10 of them who have not been reunited with their children. So either that's because they're having trouble getting a hold of the parents or because the parents haven't quite made it here yet. Earlier, when I first arrived, maybe 45 minutes ago, I spoke with a father. At that time, he had not been reunited with his son. He was obviously shaken. I want you to hear what he said.
Called me and said my son was in a bad accident, and I rushed down here from work.
Are you frightened?
Oh yeah, like my heart's beating a mile a minute. Like I don't know what's really going on. I hope they say he's okay. I just want to make sure he's okay.
Yeah, and we can all relate to how that father feels, right? Some of the parents did get word fairly quickly that their children were okay, but they still were not able to see them right away. That's because Metro gathered all the parents here. They had a list of children's names. They were going name by name. The parents were raising their hands, that's my kid, and they would pull them over. And then they walked them around away from the media on the opposite side of the street where they have those children waiting on a school bus. So the process has taken a little bit of time to reunite parents simply because they need to be absolutely sure the right kids are going with the right parents, and they of course needed to identify everyone. It's taken a little bit of time. Kudos to the Clark County School District's Police Department, Metro, and the Clark County Fire Department. They've done a phenomenal job out here keeping things calm and organized. You can understand parents don't feel calm on the inside at all. So that's the very latest from here. I was just told that we'll get another live press conference in about an hour, so they'll be gathering more information. We're hoping when they come back in an hour, they may have a better idea of how the accident happened. We're asking all of those questions, so keep it right here on Channel 13. I'm Beth Fisher here at the Lowe's right next to this accident scene. I'll toss it back to Dana and Todd now.
All right, Beth, what a long walk that must have been for those parents who were informed about their child being involved in this school bus crash between they were alerted about that to when they could finally be reunited with their child.
Just an awful experience for everyone, not knowing what was going on and who was taken where. And so, like Beth said, kudos to everyone out there, though. Quick action, even with the triage and the location of the Lowe's there and getting everyone to the parking lot for more information.
All right, let's try and get some more clarification about that update we just received there from the Clark County School District. We have reporters there at the scene. We have, I believe, Marissa Kinniston. Is Marissa available? Can we talk to Marissa real quick? All right, I'm being told right now that we are working on it because, again, the headline that came out of that press briefing we just heard moments ago is we're being told now that 2 people were inside that white car. There was 1 person who was killed in that car. The second person was taken to the hospital and is listed in critical condition. We're also being told that as many as 14 students were taken to UMC. Their injuries have been described as moderate. Earlier before we were saying there's at least 1 person taken to UMC who is listed in critical condition. So we're trying to get clarification if that 1 person was a student or is that 1 person who was critically injured involved in was inside that white car.
Right. So yeah, he did say that the passenger was in critical, and so yeah, we've been reporting that 1 person was critical, and now it might not be a student. It might be the passenger of that car. We don't know the age of the passenger in the car either, though. So obviously working to get a little bit more information on that, and our reporters are out there obviously talking with folks. So yes, as we had just mentioned, there was 1 person that was critical in the car. We don't know the age of that person, but we do know there was a fatality in the vehicle as well.
All right, we're just getting an update right now that we're being told now the total number of kids taken to the hospital is at 15. We're being told that their ages range from 11 to 16 years old. Again, if you're just joining us, what happened is about 8:30 this morning, there was a school bus involved in a crash right near Nellis and Cary.
Right, that school bus on its side, another white vehicle involved in that one, and we did hear that the person, one of the people inside that vehicle did die. Okay, let's get out to Beth Fisher. She's at the Lowe's, which is the parking lot area, which they said they wanted everyone to go to get more information. Beth, I know you've been talking with parents and the school police.
Dana, I just spoke with Metro, and they confirmed for me that the critical injury was not a student on that bus. I've heard you and Todd asking that question, and it was a fair question to ask because initially when the reports came in, I happened to be with a Metro officer on a different story. The word he got was that a child had been critically injured. Again, I can confirm for you, no children on the bus were critically hurt. There are some injuries, as you know, but none of them critically hurt. The one person who was critically hurt was in the white car. The one person who died was in the white car. Now, my photographer, Jason Harvey, is going to show you this school bus behind me. Jace, can you give him a shot of this school bus? This is the bus where they've been loading children who have not yet been reunited with their parents. Now, we can still see several children on that bus. It's air conditioned in there. They're providing them with food and water. Some of the parents are joining their kids on the bus just to take a moment to breathe, hug them, probably cry with them. But some of those children on that school bus right there are still waiting to be reunited with their parents. So we know that there are still some parents who are rattled right now, waiting to lay eyes on their kids, and emergency responders are doing everything they can to quickly reunite those folks. So I'm going to stay here at the intersection of Nellis and Cary, where families are being told to come. So if I see any new families coming, we'll be sure and try to speak with them as well. All right, that's the very latest. At least some good news. The critical injury was not a child on the school bus. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Beth, thank you very much for that clarification. Again, right now, we're going to be beginning to work. Parker Collins right now is at UMC. He is there trying to get updated information on everyone who was injured there, including the one person who was critically injured, who was now inside the vehicle, also taken to UMC. Right now, we don't know that person's age.
Right. We don't know their age at this point, and we don't know the age or details of the person who also died in the white vehicle. So, obviously, one person at the hospital, one person did die that was in the vehicle. Total of 2 people were in that passenger vehicle there that collided with the bus. Now, we did hear the number total students to 15, and so also sometimes you wonder, maybe some of the kids are heading there now after it's all over with. Maybe their parents are taking them to the hospital to get checked out. Obviously, you want to make sure that they're okay.
We're being told right now that we do have an interview. Is that a live interview? Yes, let's go to that right now. This is Marissa Kinnison, who's at the scene, who believes is a student.
My friend, he turned the wheel so we could land over there.
Were you scared?
A little bit.
Elijah, what was it like on the bus? Was everybody scared, screaming? Yeah,
everybody was screaming. Some people went to the hospital. Some people is okay.
And who told you guys to use the emergency exit out of the top?
Nobody. Everybody just started. They just opened it so everybody could get out safely. My friend, he opened it.
Now, did you call your mom, or how did you find out?
I found out the Bailey School called me, and they told me my child was on a bus that had been in an accident. So they gave me another number to call, but I called, they didn't have no information. My sister ran to me and said, "Oh, it's on the news." And so the first instant I did was jump in my car and come down.
And how were you feeling before you knew where?
I was hysterical. I didn't know. My son got asthma real bad, so I don't know. I was just praying for the best, and nothing happened to him. And I just pray for all the kids and hope they all was okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you guys for
That was Marissa Kinnison at the scene there, interviewing a parent and a student, the student on the bus. Gosh, almost takes your breath away listening to how shaken they are. Obviously, such a scary situation when you get that phone call. And even the student, she definitely looks, shaken up and just the experience probably just really shocking as it happened. Glad she's okay, though. Elijah was her name, right?
That is the panic that you heard there from that mom that so many parents are dealing with, or at least have dealt with this morning concerning the school bus crash. And we just heard again from Elijah there, a student on the bus, saying that a friend actually opened the emergency exit to get out of that overturned school bus. Let's go back right now to Parker Collins. He is live at UMC. Parker, what can you tell us?
I have to say, it's pretty emotional out here. I mean, you see the flashing lights, you see the ambulances, but I've also seen family, moms, dads out here embracing just looking very shaken. I mean, we know this is where the kids are coming. This is where they're being treated. We know one person here at the hospital is critical at this point. A lot of those who are hurt, though, are able to walk. They're up and moving around. And their injuries, we don't have much details, but they're just saying non-life-threatening, meaning they're probably going to survive. So I know for parents, that's got to be amazing news. But I'm seeing more and more people show up here. And of course, I was speaking with the hospital officials, and they were saying, you know, their goal is to make sure parents are with kids, that they can be by that bedside. Because of course, if you're a child, I can imagine how shaken up you'd be. You want your parent right there. So of course, if you are a parent, they're letting you go back there. Their police will probably ask you why you're here, and it might even escort you back. But again, I've seen parents, I've seen more and more ambulances show up here at the hospital. Again, we know one person here at the hospital is critical and is being treated. Reporting live, Parker Collins, 13 Action News.
All right, Parker, again, I'm going to sort of put you on the spot real quick. I'm sure you don't have this information, but I just want to ask, any indication about the age of the person who's critically injured who was taken there to UMC?
So that's where it gets, maybe there have been conflicting reports, because I was told by hospital officials that everyone being treated here is between the ages of 11 and 16, which led me to believe that the person who's in critical is also a minor. That was the last statement she gave. If I get anything else, of course, we will go in air with that.
All right, thanks, Parker. Yes, we don't know. It could have been maybe a parent taking their child to school, or someone within that age range in that vehicle that could be in critical condition. So we're going to wait until we get that firmed up and find out the age of the person that is in critical condition. But we do know they were in the passenger vehicle.
Yeah, and probably the best news of all, of the 15 students taken there to UMC, right now Parker is telling us that early indications are the majority of them appear to have non-life-threatening injuries, that they are up, they are walking and talking, they are alert. Again, let's check back in now with Yasmin. You've been following the traffic situation here at this intersection right near Nellis and Carey. Yasmin, what can you tell us?
Yes, the intersection is still shut down right now, and we're seeing a backup all around the intersection itself. But let's talk about the roads that are closed right now. Nellis is shut down, starting all the way north of Cheyenne at Nellis Oasis Lane, all the way down to Lake Mead, and then Carey is closed, starting at Walnut all the way over to Christie. Now, if you can see underneath this graphic right here, we're also seeing a slowdown on Lake Mead this morning because of all the traffic being redirected. You can see officers are out here redirecting traffic. People are having to turn around out here. I would take Owens instead, or Lamb, Cheyenne. All the other options are clear, but again, that intersection shut down. And in a fatal crash, we normally see the intersection shut down for hours, and now we're talking about multiple victims involved in the school bus and a lot of emergency crews, so I would avoid this area for a long time this morning.
Probably be shut down for hours and hours. Thanks, Yasmin. And you can look right there at a live picture of what that scene looks like right now. Obviously, still a huge response from emergency crews. You've got the Clark County School Police involved, obviously Metro, North Las Vegas Police up there as well, and then the fire crews, Clark County and Las Vegas Fire, both at the scene.
Yeah, we're still trying to get the details on exactly what happened with this crash, who may have been at fault, if someone ran a red light. With all these sort of questions we don't know at this hour. Again, though, the emphasis for the emergency crews there you see on your screen right now is to, A, make sure all the children who were on that bus have been treated and also have been reunited with their parents. That is the process right now that has taken precedent. Again, the investigation into what exactly unfolded will continue to develop throughout the morning.
Yeah, we've been live for a little while now. The bus crash happened actually at 8:30, and if you need to step away from the TV, we are on Facebook Live as well right now, and we're going to continue our coverage here on air, so just keeping you posted on that. We have crews all over the place. Really, we've got about 10 crews out there. We had the chopper up earlier that needed to take a little break. Marissa's at the scene. Beth is Fisher over at the Lowe's parking lot there, where parents have gathered for more information, and Parker at UMC.
Okay, so now let's recap what we know. Let's take a moment here to try and restart. What we've been told is that one person is dead. 15 kids total taken to the hospital. That bus was going to Bailey Middle School. We believe 40 children were on that bus at the time. And the parents right now are gathering at the Lowe's there on Nellis. That is the place to go right now to get direct information from emergency personnel there on the scene to try and reunite parents with their children.
And just want to reiterate that the one person that is dead was in the passenger vehicle that collided with the bus. The other person in in that vehicle taken to the hospital with critical injuries. At this point, we don't know the age of that person right now, though.
Yeah, that was part of the update we received now about 20 minutes or so ago. We were being told that 2 people were involved in that white car at the time of the crash. One person in that car was killed. The other person critically injured, taken to, we believe, UMC.
Not sure. We've got some chopper aerial pictures right now. Is this video from before? Yeah, this is some video that we rolled on just to show you what the area looks like. Pretty much at this point, really pretty much the same, because, you know, they haven't moved any of the vehicles away or anything at this point. But you can see the school bus there tipped on its side. Also looks like crashed through a fence there. Also, the white vehicle in the center of your screen is the vehicle that was involved in the crash. And you can see the sheet over the side of the vehicle. One person did die, another person taken to the hospital.
Yeah, and just taking sort of a guess here. Again, this is a guess. We're just looking at this chopper video. The side of the bus is sort of facing up, does not appear to be severely damaged. So I would surmise from that this bus just sort of flipped on its side as opposed to flipping over, which had that been the case, you would think the extent of the injuries would be more significant.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely a good observation. And we did see the top there. The hatches were all open where the students did get out. And we also noticed broken glass there in the front of the bus, too. So either that happened while it overturned or, you know, emergency crews used that area to get some more of the students out, because there were 40 on board.
Right. And we have obviously reporters right now fanned out across the scene. Marissa Kinnison has been doing a fantastic job for us interviewing students who are on board. I believe we're going to go back out to Marissa right now. Marissa.
Hi, Todd. Yeah, I wanted to show you what the scene looks like right now, because it looks a little bit different than what we showed you a few minutes ago. Take a look. You can still see that white car here on scene. Again, that is what police say crashed into the school bus. And then if you look just to the right of the car, you can see an opening in the gate. We are also hearing that's how the school bus just crashed right through it. You can see it is still there on its side. Police looking around, just still investigating here. Again, just dozens and dozens of students on that bus when this happened. Now, if we can pan a little bit more over, Daryl, if we can go just to the right here, keep panning over. This bus that you're looking at here on scene, that is actually filled with kids. Well, maybe not filled. It's got several kids inside. Those still the ones we're hearing from police that have not yet been reunited with their parents. We are hearing just a handful, maybe under 10. That's what police tell me, that still have not been reunited with their parents here on scene. So if you are a parent, here's what you need to know. Again, go to Lowe's on the corner of Nellis and Carey. They are still reuniting parents with their kids here this morning. Back to you guys.
All right, Marissa, you can only hope in this day and age of cell phones that those parents of those 10 children at least have had some kind of contact with their kids, because you can imagine the panic and fear that they must be going through this morning.
Yeah, we heard from a parent a little bit earlier, and she said that she got a phone call from the school. They quickly got in touch with as many parents as they could, because they knew obviously which students were on the bus. You know, they knew there were 40 on there heading to Bailey Middle School, and so she said obviously she was shaken up, and then she talked to some friends who said, hey, it's on TV, and so she reported to the scene, and her daughter, who we also spoke with, seemed to be okay. And so we have been talking with some of those students who say obviously it was a very scary situation, but that their friends, they worked together to get off the bus, obviously with the help of emergency crews, and a lot of them seem to be okay, 15 taken to the hospital.
Yeah, and if we go back to that graphic we just had up on our screen, we just want to be clear that one person dead, as we understand it, was involved and was in the vehicle. A second person who was inside that car was taken to the hospital, also listed in critical condition. 15 kids there taken to UMC. We're being told that their injuries are being described as moderate and or non-life-threatening. We do know that as many as 40 children were on the bus at the time. Those children were being taken to Bailey Middle School, and as we've been reporting, parents right now gathering right there at the site at the Lowe's on Nellis. That's where our anchor Beth Fisher is, as well as reporter Marissa Kinnison have been giving us updates throughout the morning.
Right, and Captain Ken Young from the Clark County School District Police Department said really, their first priority at this point is just getting all the information to parents that are showing up to the scene, because yes, you can get a hold of some parents, but they might not be able to get a hold. They're just finding out about this now. Hopefully we're providing information for them, letting them know to head to the Lowe's parking lot there. And so first priority right now is getting that information to the parents who might have students that are kids that are in the hospital or have kids that are just fine, and like Marissa pointed out, are on that bus waiting to be transported either to school or to the parking lot of the Lowe's.
All right, again, this intersection, this is right near Nellis and Cary. That intersection is closed now, and by all indications, it's going to remain closed for much of the day today. And now we're beginning to see traffic issues sort of bubble up in and around that intersection. Yasmin Hassan has been following that angle for us throughout the morning. I don't know if we can go back to Yasmin real quick for an update on what, if any, information you could provide for us as far as road closures and traffic is concerned right now.
Away from Nellis and Cary right now. Give you an idea of the area we're talking about. The purple you see on your screen, that's the road closures. So let's start with Nellis. Nellis shut down, starting at Nellis Oasis Road all the way down to Lake Mead. But if you can see, we're still seeing actually a backup all the way up to Las Vegas Boulevard. So traffic is just backing up because of this closure. And then Cary is shut down, starting at Walnut all the way over to Christie. And I am seeing some traffic going over to Lake Mead, so Lake Mead is backing up just a little bit. If you do want to avoid the area, maybe you want to take Owens instead. Otherwise, you're going to run into all of these emergency crews, officers trying to redirect traffic, forcing people to turn around, just giving emergency crews some room to work. Here's what it looks like at Nellis and Owens. Very light traffic this morning. I would avoid the area. Like we've been saying, we are talking about a fatal crash investigation, so we are anticipating this to be shut down at least for the rest of the afternoon, for hours at the very least. So we'll stay on top of this all morning throughout the day.
All right. Thanks, Yasmin. Gosh, it started off as a very busy morning breaking news-wise here in the Valley, and then this bus crash happened at 8:30 this morning. Obviously, we have mentioned one person died. They were in the vehicle there, the white vehicle. One person in critical condition that was also in that vehicle, and 15 students taken to the hospital that were on that bus headed to Bailey Middle School.
Boy, you could just imagine. We're being told that 40 students were on board this bus at the time when it got involved in this very serious traffic accident here and then flipped on its side. You could imagine the fear and the panic that those students went through this morning. 40 kids getting involved in a serious crash, the school bus then veering off the road, crashing through a fence, then flipping onto its side. Marissa Kinnison before brought us that live interview with Elijah. She was a student on that bus. Again, we're talking about kids between the ages of 11 and 16 years old, obviously very upset, but it was really interesting and compelling to hear from Elijah describe that a fellow student on board that bus actually opened up one of the emergency exits, and that's how at least she and I presume other students got off that bus. So in these moments of fear and panic, there was some acts of heroism here, and children acting, well above their age.
Yeah, and when something like that happens, you got to spring into action. And obviously, she had mentioned that they were near one of those hatches. And earlier, we had shown you when Chopper 13 was kind of around from the other side, you could see those emergency hatches open.
All right, let's go right now to Leslie Marine. She has a live interview, I believe. Is this another student or parent? Leslie, go ahead, take it away.
Leslie, go ahead, take it away.
Todd, we're out here live where parents are just being reunited with their students. This student here, Carla, was just reunited with your mom. Yeah. What does it feel like to just be seeing your mom after such an experience this morning?
I literally felt like I haven't seen her in years. I felt like I haven't seen her in like millions of years. And when I reunited with her, I just felt like safe with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a terrifying experience that you went through this morning. Can you explain what happened on that bus, or what you remember from being on that bus?
Well, what I remember is like I was just having a normal conversation with my friends and everything, and then we hit a bump and we're like, oh, it's a bump, nothing to it, whatever. And then suddenly the bus started flipping and like everything was flying around, backpacks, dirt, kids, like it was so bad. And then it just came to a halt and like we all got out of that bus. It was so...
How did you get out?
I was telling my friend, I was like, hey, open the back, there's a back exit door. I was like, open it. And he opened it, and that's when we all just ran out. And we were like, it felt like you couldn't breathe in there. It just felt so terrifying.
How do you feel right now? Are you hurt? Are you feeling anything?
I mean, like, my leg kind of hurts, but, like, I'm like, fine. Like, nothing broken, no blood, no nothing.
But emotionally, what was that like for you? How old are you?
I'm 13.
You're only 13 years old. I'm sure. Have you ever been through anything like that?
No,
or
never.
Emotionally, what was that like for you?
It was like very terrifying. I felt like I was gonna die. I felt, oh, this is my last day. I didn't even get to say bye to my mom. Like, I felt like I was gonna die, literally.
I heard a lot of students were crying, but we also heard one student was able to take the wheel of the bus and kind of
Swerve it.
stop the situation
Yeah.
a little bit.
Very brave guy, yeah. Chris. He took the wheel and just swerved.
Only 12 years old.
Yeah, only 12 years old, 6th grader. Yeah, pretty brave guy.
Do you think his move really did save you guys, or really helped?
I mean, probably, yeah. We could have landed on the street or worse, but we landed on the dirt safe. Yeah.
Really great. Well, I'm so glad to see that you are okay and you're reunited with your mom. Again, you guys, we're seeing a lot of cases like Carla out here right now. A lot of parents finally being reunited with their students. As we know, earlier this morning, the bus did tip over. It collided with another car. We do know one person has died, another critical condition. No one on that bus, though, is in critical condition, despite at least 14 students being transported. But we're going to continue to talk to families being reunited finally here this morning. Back to you guys.
All right, Leslie, thank you so much for that interview with Carla. Now let's switch pages here. Let's go over to Parker Collins with a live interview outside UMC.
How is it inside the hospital? How's the scene?
It was quite a lot of people. So there was a lot of kids injured. So there was a lot of rooms filled. They had almost all the nurses helping.
Does it feel good to be back with your mom and
Yes.
to be out of there now?
Yes.
I mean, what was going through your head as it was turning, as it was flipping?
Well, everyone was just scared. We started hearing screams, and out of nowhere, we just felt the bus flip, and that's it. And then all of us just started running out of the bus, the exits, and all that.
Show us your injuries. Where are you hurt? What happened?
It was just my knee, because I landed my knee on the glass right here. I can't really pick it up because it's still a little sore. They put me some medicine to numb because they put 3 stitches. So
it's covered up.
Yeah.
You can't see right now.
What was your reaction when you heard about the bus crash?
Oh, really scared. It was really bad. The accident was really bad. But yeah, scary thing to know that a child was in a bus crash and not knowing whether they were okay or not. So.
And how did you find out?
He called me. But school also did call. School was really good about that. I got a couple of calls from the school to let us know. So, but thank you so much.
What did you think of the response, the emergency response?
Very quick and very good. Everybody was really helpful.
How good does it feel to be reunited with your
son?
son?
Real good. After still shaking, kind of scared, but I need to get him home to get rest.
Sure. What's your name?
Tina Luna.
Tina Luna?
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
We were just speaking with a parent and a student who were coming out of the hospital. There are some injuries. He said his knee landed on some glass, but he does seem to be okay. He's up and walking, and they're just so happy to be reunited. Again, we know upwards of 14 minors here are being treated. We know one person is critical here at the hospital, but I've seen a lot of people reuniting, parents with students, and it really does seem like a happy scene for the most part out here. Back to you.
Yeah, it's you hope that it's as minor as that, glass
Yes.
in a knee. Hopefully all the students that are there at the hospital are just being looked at and treated for that type of injury after this crash. We know there's 15 that were taken to the hospital.
Yeah, Parker was describing for us earlier that right now, of those 15 students who are on board the bus, their injuries being described as either moderate or non-life-threatening. He was saying that a lot of those students, like we just heard from that young man there, had basically some bumps and bruises, got checked out and seemed to be okay. So let's hope and pray that that sort of trend continues here as we continue to follow the developing information as it comes into our newsroom. Again, this is a school bus crash that happened at 8:30 this morning. 4 students were on board this bus as it was making its way to Bailey Middle School this morning when it got involved into a serious crash involving the school bus and one white car. We understand 2 people were inside that car at that time. One person in that car was killed. The other was transported in critical condition. Now, we don't know the age of the other person who was inside that car right now.
We don't know if that person possibly was a minor. We know they weren't. The person that's in critical was not on the bus, but we don't know the age of the passenger of that white vehicle at this time, so we're trying to find that out. Also, the Clark County School District just putting out a statement on their Twitter page, just keeping everyone informed on what's happening. For the most part, we've reported most of the information they put out, but they do want parents to know, and anyone that has children at the school, that they will be contacted personally by the school once they determine the condition of the student, the name, everything like that. So you will be contacted if you haven't been contacted already. And they also want everyone to know that the crisis response team is going to be at the school today to provide counseling services and support for students, because obviously the kids that go there hearing things about their friends, seeing maybe some images online or even watching us on TV or passing by, it's a scary situation when you don't know what's going on. You see a school bus tipped over on its side after a crash. And again, here's more on that statement that they just put out. And you can see right there, it says that they're looking forward to how everyone's cooperating. They will be contacting everyone personally that had a student on the bus. And they do say the crisis response team will be at the school today to assist with students. And obviously, not only the students that were on the bus, but also the students that attend the school might be hearing some information about their friends.
Right. Well, also, you got to think of those students on the bus. We just heard from a 13-year-old Carla there. Leslie Marine was interviewing her, and she was saying how, she thought she was going to die. So that is the level of emotion and fear that these young children are dealing with this morning. So obviously, they're going to need some kind of attention one way or the other when all is said and done here. Again, breaking news right now. A school bus crash happened at 8:30 this morning. 40 children on board this bus at the time when it crashed right in the intersection near Nellis and Carey.
Right, now you got two shots right here. We've got video from our chopper 13, which was fast and first over the scene here, showing us what it looked like shortly after the crash. To the right, we've got a live picture from the front of UMC, where we just saw Parker talking with the student who was just released from the hospital, and a mom who was very relieved, but still a little stunned at this point that their child was in this crash. The student that Parker just talked to said that he had some glass in his knee. He went to the hospital, seemed to be okay, but obviously expressed that it was a very scary situation.
Yeah, from the early indications that we've been able to sort of collect here as we've talked to students who were on board the bus at the time, it seems like obviously it was a chaotic moment, but we're not hearing any stories of any students who appeared to be trapped at that point. So that's at least an indication as to why maybe we're not hearing more serious injuries from students who are involved in that bus.
Right. That definitely is the good thing. And we do know that one person's in critical, but they were in the vehicle, not the bus. And so just saying even the moderate injuries, for even though that amount of students were at the hospital, we're hoping that it was, minor injuries, just like some glass in the knee, just like the one student that was released. And hopefully we'll keep updating you throughout this hour with students who are being released from UMC one by one.
And speaking of updating information as it comes in, I'm being told that a reporter, David Schumann, is also live out there. David, you are at the scene. Can you tell us what you know?
Well, for everything going on right now here, the impact on traffic is pretty significant. The intersection of Carey and Nellis is, of course, completely shut down. Nellis is actually closed all the way up north to Cheyenne, and if you head out west a little bit, Carey is taped off for quite a ways too. Now, police have told me they expect to be out here most of the day, if not all of it, so bottom line is avoid the area if you can. If you are a parent trying to be reunited with your child who was on the bus, officers will get you through and help you with everything that you need. Back to you guys.
Thank you so much, David. We've been, of course, getting updates about the traffic from Yasmin here in the studio, but now David Schumann out there at the scene kind of taking a look around. And we do know that, obviously, that intersection is going to be closed for a long time as they investigate pretty much throughout the day.
All right, let's check back in with Marissa Kinnison, who's also there at the scene. Marissa, you have an interview.
John, I actually talked with somebody who was here when that crash happened. We wanted to show you where it happened one more time. Let's take a look over here. You can still see that school bus on its side and also that white car there pulled over to the side of the road. The person inside that car is the one who died after this crash happened. Now, again, I did talk to somebody who saw this whole thing happen. He said he was actually right behind the school bus just before this whole crash happened.
We was just riding, and all of a sudden you seen a car just zoom across like it was a high-speed chase.
All right, well, that man tells me he immediately pulled over. He ran to the woman's car. He says he tried to pull her out. He says she was talking at that time. He just says he told her to hang on, that paramedics were coming to the scene, but he said she was pinned down, so he wasn't able to pull her from that car. Again, we do know the woman in that car is the one who died here today, and that witness says he just immediately ran over, tried to help. He says he did notice all the kids on the school bus able to climb out of those emergency windows, the top window from the bus, and so that's why his attention was on the woman in the car. Back to you guys.
All right, Marissa, thanks so much for all the updates. And obviously, Marissa's been talking with parents and students. And so you're looking at some video from Chopper 13 from a little bit earlier. This is shortly after the crash had happened. We do know Chopper back up right now and on its way to the scene. Once we get over it, we'll take some live pictures and take a look around there, see what it looks like now from the sky as we hover above it. And you can see there Chopper on its way to Cary and Nellis, where that crash took place. And right nearby, there's a Lowe's there, and parents have been told to go there to the parking lot, and CCSD police have been there too, communicating with parents, getting information. Beth Fisher was there earlier saying obviously it was very chaotic but very organized, and she commended a lot of the emergency crews that were there. Obviously, they have a plan in place. I mean, there's more than 5 people involved in this incident, so they're calling it a mass casualty incident, and the response, as you can see from our live pictures and our picture from the scene,
emergency
very
department.
traumatic.
Those are all non-life-threatening injuries, so that's the good news. They are all going to be just fine. We also have the bus driver here with us, and she too is going to be just fine. She's just being evaluated for her injuries as well.
Can you say those numbers one more time? We just are live now.
Sure. 14 patients so far have been taken here to the UMC Trauma Center. One of those patients, unfortunately, is in critical condition in surgery right now, and the other patients are all being evaluated in our pediatric emergency department, and the bus driver as well is being evaluated in our trauma center.
Is the critical patient a minor?
The critical patient is a child, yes.
Do you know if that patient was in the other car or in the bus?
I don't know because we weren't out at the scene.
And do you know how many other patients are being treated elsewhere? You said there's 14 in one unit and then some others in another.
I can only confirm the patients who we received here at UMC. So 14 total, including the bus driver and including one patient who's in critical condition.
Earlier you were talking about 2 people that were going to be coming here. Did they ever come here?
We have received all the patients that we know of so far from the scene. We may have what we call walking wounded, maybe some parents who are worried that their kids might need to be seen, and we of course will welcome them as well. But those kids would be transported in private vehicles versus in an ambulance.
What's your message to parents right now?
Our message to parents right now and those that we have upstairs is that their children are in the very best care possible. This is why UMC is here. We are the only level 1 trauma center. We are the only pediatric trauma center, only level 2 and designated pediatric trauma center. They're in very good hands right now. Not only have we been taking care of our patients, those children who were on the bus and in that crash, but also their families as well. So we really have 2 sets of patients right now. We have patients who are involved in the crash and their family members who are, as you would imagine, extremely worried about them. You're welcome.
Can we stay here too in the shade? All right, that's our own Parker Collins there at the scene. Live updated information there from the fine people at UMC. Again, right now the headline coming out of that briefing is, we've been told now a total of 14 patients taken to UMC. 1 is in critical condition. That patient was inside the white vehicle. We're being told now that that one person is also a minor. And that 13 people from the bus, including the bus driver and 12 students, were all taken to UMC. The good news there is we're being told that they are all going to be just fine, including the bus driver. So that is a big development here right now. Certainly a welcome bit of information concerning everything that we've been through this morning and everything that we have witnessed. Again, UMC telling us that the 12 students and also the 1 bus driver, they're going to be okay.
All right, we want to welcome everyone to our midday newscast now, and we do start with breaking news. We have been following this all morning, and we're seamlessly going to keep continuing to cover
now,
this.
Now, breaking news from 13 Action
Chopper
News.
13 fast and first over this bus crash right near Cary and Nellis, and obviously we are dedicating so many resources to this right now to make sure that we bring you the most updated information. Let's get out there live right now and show you who we've got out there. Parker Collins at UMC, Marissa Kinnison at the scene.
Yeah, and both have been doing a tremendous job for us all day today. Let's begin with Marissa. What can you tell us as of right now?
Todd, the biggest thing right now is that the triage tents are down. Let's take a look at the scene. If you remember a little bit earlier this morning during our live coverage, that whole dirt block was filled with tents. There were paramedics underneath those tents. They had gurneys out. They had all their medical equipment. They were really just assessing the students on that bus, making sure the kids on that bus were okay. The ones going to them really had very minor injuries, cuts and bruises. The rest of them have been sent to the hospital. Now, if we're looking at the scene here, police have started their investigation now that it appears most of the students have been taken away from the scene. That white car is what police tell me crashed into that school bus, causing it to flip on its side and obviously causing so many injuries here on scene. A lot of very concerned parents worried that their student, if their kid was okay this morning as they were just heading to school. Back to you guys.
All right, Marissa, hey, real quick, you just brought us an interview a couple of minutes ago from an eyewitness. Can you just briefly sort of surmise for us what it is that he saw?
Yeah, so essentially I was able to talk with a man who was here on scene when this whole crash happened. He said his car was actually the car right behind the school bus. So again, if we can take a look at the intersection, I'll kind of walk you through what that guy told me here on scene. He said the school bus was in front of him going through the intersection of Nellis and Carey. That's when he says he saw the white car just zoom through the intersection. He says it was almost out of a movie. And so as soon as he saw the crash happen, he says he immediately pulled over. He got out of his car. He tried to help. He says his first thing was to help the woman in the white car because you can see that white car is just an absolute mess. He said he was worried for her safety. He ran over there to try to pull her out of the car, but he says she was just really pinned inside. He was really just trying to tell her, hang on, paramedics are on their way. That's when he says he saw all the kids on that school bus just climb out of emergency exits here.
Marissa, do you know, according to that eyewitness, did this crash happen right at that intersection of Nellis and Carey? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, that is a controlled intersection. There is a traffic light there, correct?
There absolutely is a traffic light here at Nellis and Carey, and during the morning, a lot of cars are passing through this intersection. He didn't make it clear if the cars collided. One was on Nellis and one was on Carey, but he did say he was behind the school bus when this whole thing happened.
All right, Mr. Kinnison, thank you so much for continuing to update us information there live at the scene from this morning's school bus crash. Again, we're being told as many as 40 students were on board this bus at the time of the crash. They were all being transported to a Bailey Middle School. It was just a typical school day.
Yeah, it was. And you look at the end result right here, and you can see the hatches open, the front glass there smashed in. We did get an update from UMC shortly, just a few minutes ago, and they were saying that the bus driver's doing okay. So speaking of that, let's go out to Parker Collins. He's at UMC, and Parker, not only have you talked to officials from UMC, but also a student who was just released.
Dana, I've spoken with a student who was released. I've spoken with parents. I've spoken with hospital officials. Overall, I really have to say the scene over here is pretty happy. It's parents reuniting with students, and most of the students who were injured are doing okay. So here's what we're seeing right now. Most of the ambulances have left, but if you can pan over here, John, we do still have some officers kind of watching the front entrance here to the trauma center. So the last update we just got, the bus driver is here as well. That person is doing okay. One person is in critical condition here at the hospital, but other sources are telling us that critical condition person most likely was not on the bus with all those kids. So the majority of the kids who are here, who are being treated, they're going to be fine. Many of them up and walking. I just spoke with one of them. If you were here with us a few minutes ago, he was able to talk with us. He landed on some glass, his knee, so he couldn't really bend his leg, but that was basically the extent of his injuries. Back to you.
All right, Parker, I just want to sort of clarify, because certainly these numbers have been changing throughout the morning. But according to the update we just received from UMC, as you provided for us, as we understand it, we're talking about a total of 14 patients taken to UMC. That includes the one minor who was in the white car there, as well as the bus driver. So from that, are we correct to assume that we're talking about 12 students on the bus were treated there at the hospital?
Yeah, and they have got everybody that they expect to get to be treated here. No one else is coming here is what they're telling me. I think the numbers you have are correct. That's the latest that we have, 14 being treated here in the critical condition. But the critical condition we know and we've confirmed was not on the bus with the other students.
Okay, Parker, thanks so much. Yeah, but we did hear that it's a minor. So so whether it was a parent taking a student to school, we do know is a minor. We don't know the age, but we do know that the driver in that vehicle did pass away. We know the other person in that white vehicle was taken to the hospital. That's the person in critical condition. That person is a minor. And then we have 12 students from the bus that were taken to the hospital, and the driver as well, who is obviously an adult and seems to be doing okay.
Yeah, that is really the good news to come out of this so far right now. We're being told that those 12 students who were on that bus at the time, including also now the bus driver, all being treated at UMC for relatively minor to moderate injuries. They should all be okay.
All right, Tom George is now on the scene as well, and he has been gathering some more information. Tom, what do you know?
Yeah, well, we're here at Bailey Middle School where that bus was supposed to be heading. It was supposed to be pulling right in there, but that never happened. But what we have seen this morning is a pretty steady stream of cars, some of them with a little bit of urgency trying to speed in there. It looks like parents that have been concerned, wondering, was my kid involved in this? But after this happened, there were text messages sent out to parents, only the parents involved that they knew had students on that bus. But of course, that didn't stop other parents from being concerned as well. We actually caught up with one parent who was walking out crying. She was so worried to make sure that her kids were okay.
All right, that's Tom George reporting live for us there at Bailey Middle School. Again, this is the school where those 40 school children were heading this morning, a typical school day. Then at 8:30 this morning, everything changed when they were involved in this very serious crash right near Nellis and Cary. Thank you for that update, Tom, as I'm sure there are a lot of parents and students who were not involved in the school bus crash directly, but still obviously very concerned and upset this morning as they try and comfort their children who might have friends who were on board the bus this morning.
Right, and CCSD, saying that the crisis response team is there at the school to deal with those folks that may have not been involved in the accident, but are also, like you just mentioned, hearing, and Tom just mentioned, seeing what's going on. And obviously, I'm sure they're passing around that information throughout the school this morning. We have put that statement from CCSD on our Twitter page and our website, ktnv.com.
All right, we have reporters now across the multiple scenes here, including we have Marissa, we have Parker, we have Tom George. Leslie Marine was also out there this morning, as well as our anchor, Beth Fisher, all gathering, working really hard to gather as much information as best as we can at the time. And we have now heard from a number of parents, as well as from a number of students who were actually on board at that time. And we heard from a girl who was on that bus, a young lady by the name of Elijah, and she sort of described the moments, the sort of frantic moments as the school bus tipped over onto its side. Obviously, a lot of kids, we're talking about kids between the ages of 11 and 16 years old, were panicked, they were upset. But she described how a fellow student actually opened up one of the emergency exits, and that's how at least she and also other students got out.
Yeah, Marissa was asking her, like, how did you get out? And she said that the emergency exits, and she said who opened it were the crews, and she said no, it was someone on a bus, a friend or a fellow student, to kind of get it open. And so, we have those safety classes when you ride the bus, and these kids knew what to do. We're hoping that helped a lot of them get off the bus safely. Again, there were 40 students on the bus, many taken to the hospital, but it could have been much worse.
All right, this intersection right near Nellis and Cary, obviously it is closed. It will remain closed for a while, but there has been some traffic backups now sort of surrounding this intersection the longer now that it has been closed down. Yasmin Hassan has been following those developments for us all morning long. Let's check back in with Yasmin.
All right, thank you, Todd. So the area, again, we're talking about Nellis and Cary. Obviously, that intersection shut down, but we're seeing intersections and streets shut down all in this area. But I also want to show you how far away the school was. It was about 2.5 miles away from the crash, Bailey Middle School. We do also have another elementary school in this area, but again, all the students on board were going to Bailey Middle School. As far as the road closures go, Nellis is shut down starting at Nellis Oasis Lane, which is just north of Cheyenne, but I'm seeing a backup all the way up to Las Vegas Boulevard, all the way south to Lake Mead. And then Cary is shut down right now at Walnut, all the way over to Christie. So officers are telling everyone to avoid this area. You can see that there's still a huge police presence out here turning cars around. Now, this closure does not affect you if you are a parent going to the area to check on your child. Officers will escort you over to the Lowe's out here this morning, but everyone else is being asked to avoid the area. I'm seeing a backup on Lake Mead because so many cars are being forced around. Here's a live look at Nellis and Owens. I think this might be one of your best options. Owens, Lamb, Cheyenne, all of those are open for you this morning, but I believe that this closure will be lasting for many hours, so we'll be tracking it all day long. Guys, back to you.
Thanks so much, Yasmin. Yeah, it's going to be a mess for a while. We have Chopper 13 fast and first live over the intersection right now. And you can see what it looks like. Obviously, devastating to look at that school bus on its side, the other vehicle involved. As we did mention, the person, at least one of the people inside that vehicle, did pass away at the scene. Another person in critical condition, and we're hearing that person is a minor at the hospital.
Yeah, we don't know exactly how this crash occurred, but the best we could sort of put together as of right now is really from the eyewitness from that Marissa Kinison interviewed earlier today, describing the driver of that white car just all of a sudden zooming sort of right into the picture, so to speak, and colliding with that bus. We have our reporter Stephanie Zeppelin also right now live for us covering this developing story. Stephanie, what can you tell us?
Todd, we talked about the children and their parents at the hospital at UMC, but from other parents we've talked to here on the scene, it sounds like some of them are going to choose to take their children to the hospital just to get checked out as a precaution. Now, it seems to me, being on scene here, that the parents are more worried than the children. We talked to that young child, Elijah, that you mentioned earlier, Todd, and he said that the bus tipped on its side and they just walked out that emergency exit in the roof of a bus. I don't know if you remember being on the bus as a child. You can see those, it's almost like a little skylight. They push them open and they walk out. And the child seemed a lot less worried about it than his mother, and that seems to be the theme here, is that the children are very calm. I think it was scary for them at the time, but now they've calmed down a lot, and the parents are still very worried. I've seen several parents here on the scene who are still looking for their children, trying to determine whether their children were on that bus and if they're okay or if they've already somehow made it to school. So the parents very worried still, but the children are doing okay. Other witnesses, it seems like, have left the area as police are beginning to do their report. And if you look over here, you can see where that crash happened. It's kind of hard to see. We are behind the car, but that white four-door sedan is the car that police and witnesses say hit the bus, and you can see the back looks fine, but the front, I don't know if you can tell from here, is very mangled, very damaged. If you see the front of the car, it's almost hard to look at because it's just such a bleak picture of what happened here, and that driver, as we know, did pass. The other person in that car still in critical condition. Todd?
You got to the scene there about maybe a half hour or so ago. Marissa was reporting that as many as 10 parents had not been reunited with their children. I don't know if, Stephanie, you can still hear me. Any indication right now on the number of parents who have not been reunited with their children?
Just from the number of parents at the scene, I think that that number is going down because there are fewer parents out here looking for their children, and it seems to be a more calm situation. So we don't have any official numbers on that, but it seems like fewer parents out there.
And they all go to Bailey Middle School?
Yes.
What are the doctors telling you?
They're doing MRIs for my son. Paul's going to stitch him up. They don't know if they're going to keep him or not. So.
Can you show us a picture of your child right now? Can you tell us about your child, the picture that you're showing us right now?
This is Tiandre. He's 14. He's very emotional. Every time he looked at me, he cries. He said, just a wake-up call for him.
What was it like to be reunited with him, to be close to his side once again?
It was wonderful. Like, I was knocking the doctors out the way. Like, you guys are going to have to wait.
So you're telling us 4 children you had on that bus, 4 of your children.
Yes.
I mean, it must be really difficult for you.
It is.
How did you find out?
I was at work on a phone call, but my daughter, she kept calling me back to back, and I knew something was wrong. And I answered the phone, and she was screaming, saying the bus got in an accident.
How do you describe it?
She just said the bus was in an accident, and her brother, his eye was bleeding. And yeah, I didn't know the bus flipped over until I was already on my way.
When you heard that?
It was, my supervisor just had to grab me, and they you need to calm down before you drive.
Would you ever have imagined you'd be going to the hospital today for your kids?
No.
Have you seen the images of that bus?
I have, in the car.
What do you think when you see that bus flipped over like that?
It's good that, mostly everybody was safe compared to how the bus flipped over, went, I guess, basically it looks like it went through the gate and flipped, and my kids are saying the bus flipped like 5 times. One of my kids said he was holding on to the rails. My daughter was in a seat by herself, and all the kids ended up on top of her. So,
what's the scene inside that pediatric emergency room?
Very emotional. Lots of parents up there, very emotional. I actually was able to see one of the little girls who pulled my son. She pulled my son out. But it's just emotional for everybody. Sorry. Everybody just needs to really embrace your loved ones, because tomorrow's not promised to anybody at all. And, even the situation, the lady in the car, our prayers go out to her and her family too. Accidents happen all the time. I mean, I was hearing parents saying, she's hurt, it's her fault, but she has loved ones who love her too. So.
I'm hearing that there is one child that is in critical condition right now.
Yeah.
What, as a mother, how are you feeling?
Hurt. It's really giving me a wake-up call. When things happen to you personally, it really affects you compared to just seeing stuff on the news. When it's you in the situation, it's totally different. Like, my kids are all I have.
What happens next? Are they going to stay at the hospital? Are you going to have to stay here for the foreseeable future?
Possibly. We're just waiting to see if they're going to keep him or not. Possibly transfer him to Sunrise.
Have you heard anything in the past about the bus driver?
Well, on their route, they keep having bus drivers, different bus drivers. Every couple days, every week, it's a different bus driver. It's always issues on the bus. So my first thing was, it's been a lot of accidents with buses in Las Vegas lately. What is going on?
How important is it for you to get answers, for an investigation to happen?
It's very important. Like, I need to know what happened. Who was at fault? I'm hearing, the lady ran the red light. I don't know.
What changes do you want to see? I know it's early, but are there any changes you want to see offhand with the bus?
They need to put buses. I was just looking at live, and it said Nevada, it's only required that the driver has a seatbelt. So my children's lives aren't that important. The driver's life is important.
Forgive me because we showed up late. I know you've maybe been asked this question before. First of all, do you mind sharing your name with me?
Tonisha Deesh Jones.
Can you spell that for me, please?
TONYISADEASE-JONES.
And how many of your children were on the bus?
3 of 4 children.
3 of 4 children were on the bus?
Yes.
And again, forgive me, I know I'm asking you, but they've already asked you, but their condition?
2 of them are fine. One of them, he's in and out of consciousness. His face is messed up. They're going to try and do stitches. His tooth went through his mouth, so he has a hole in his cheek. So.
How would you describe your morning?
It was fine until I got that call. You know when something's wrong. My daughter kept calling me back to back. I knew something was wrong. I had just texted her and asked her, "You guys ready for school?" She said we were leaving for the bus. 20 minutes later, I get the call.
What was it like in the room with your children?
It was emotional. Just a lot of hugs, prayers. My one son, every time he looks at me, he cries.
Your son that you said is going in and out of consciousness, how old is he?
He's 14. Yeah. He's the oldest, and just emotional. Thank you.
We've been going about the details of this story as we sort of continue to sort of follow the developments, but the emotion from we just heard there from that mom really brings it home about what we're dealing with here this morning, in that she had 4 children on that bus. She said that at least 2 are going to be okay, but she described her one 14-year-old boy whose tooth apparently went through his cheek, who's in and out of consciousness. Tough morning for a lot of parents right now.
Yeah, I believe she said he was going to have an MRI, but her speaking briefly a little bit earlier saying, boy, she is immediately a changed person, and that never thought this could happen to her. It's something you hear about, something you see, a traumatic situation when you get that phone call. She said her daughter called, actually, who was on the bus, and kept calling and calling and calling. She knew something was wrong, and her daughter called her crying, saying there was this bus accident, and that her brothers and sisters were on the bus as well.
She talked about making sure you hug your loved ones, because tomorrow is never promised, and unfortunately that rings too true for that driver in the white vehicle, as we're being told. Apparently it was a woman who was driving that white vehicle who was killed in this car crash. Okay. Right now, you're looking at a live shot there of police officers and emergency personnel there gathered at that scene. We're being told to expect a press briefing here in the next 10 minutes or so we're going to continue to monitor that. There you see members from the Metro getting ready for this, and we will continue to take it live as soon as that press conference happens. We'll go back out there live to the scene.
We watched the incident unfold in live pictures from Chopper 13, also traffic cameras and our crews there on the scene. And it looks like we've moved along in the process here. It's now 11:20. The crash was at 8:30. And what we can see from these live pictures from Chopper 13 is that it looks like investigators are out there and kind of retracing the tracks of this accident now. And this is what they do. Now they're measuring, trying to figure out. You can see them putting down the little cones. This will be a process that'll go on probably for a couple hours now to make sure that they have everything covered, to figure out how it happened, who was at fault, especially because there was a fatality, and then you had a school bus full of 40 children and the driver. So obviously a major investigation, and you want to make sure that you get everything right. That's a process they're in right now. It looks like they're taking all those measurements and trying to figure out what happened.
Right, and hard for us to sit back here and say for sure what we know, what would happen. We just don't. But the best thing that we could surmise right now is from the interview that Marissa Kinnison got earlier from a driver who was actually behind the bus, saying this bus was going right through that intersection near Nellis and Cary. There is a traffic light there, and this witness described that white car as suddenly sort of zooming into the scene and colliding with the bus. So that's the only bit of information that we have right now concerning exactly how this crash occurred at around 8:30 this morning.
Right. And we did hear from, I believe it was that parent, saying that her daughter said that the bus flipped a couple times. You know, we can't confirm that, but that's what the daughter said, and that's what she described it as. That's what she told her mom had happened. You don't know exactly. Sometimes when it's a traumatic situation, you're stressed, you feel it flipped over. We don't know how many times it flipped over. We didn't think that it looked like it did because the other side wasn't that damaged. But I don't know. That's what the daughter told her mom there, the one that we spoke to at UMC.
And she was describing kids being piled on top of one another, and as you mentioned, she did say, she at least told her mom, that the bus flipped, I think she said 4 or 5 times. Again, that's something we can't confirm, but again, we're just sort of relaying the information as best as we can at this point.
Yeah, Tom George was out at the school, and he actually just sent in an interview that he did that we haven't heard yet, but with a student who was supposed to be on the bus but stayed at her friend's house last night, had a sleepover, and so she wasn't on that vehicle this morning. Obviously very relieved, but stunned as well. And he talked to her at Bailey Middle School, which is where the students were heading this morning.
And I know you were referencing earlier a tweet that was sent out from the school district, and I don't know if we have that tweet again up on the screen. Again, this is involving students from the Bailey Middle School.
Yeah, this is from the Clark County School District, and they're saying this is an update regarding the progress there, and something that most of the information we've pushed out already. We told you that they were contacting parents and students and getting the information out, but one thing they did point out is that they have their crisis response team at Bailey Middle School right now, and will be out there for the rest of the day, because a lot of these students obviously have fellow students, friends that were on that bus, and it's traumatic to hear and to see these pictures today, so they want to make sure that they handle everything with care.
And you also have to imagine that they're going to help the parents, too, figure out who to turn to, because I'm sure there are a lot of parents right now students who were either on that bus or even just fellow classmates at Bailey who really don't know, what is the proper thing to do with my child? Is there someone that we could talk to about this, the emotional distress involved in all of this?
Right. We're going to go out to Tom George right now, who has an interview currently happening. Let's listen in.
But I rushed down here because I wanted to find out what was going on and see if anybody needed anything, make sure everybody was okay. And I know that they're working really tirelessly and really doing a great job trying to get everything situated, and they're communicating with the parents, and they're doing a fantastic job. Bailey is doing fantastic, trying to get everybody on the same wheel, so to speak, and just doing a fantastic job. I hope that the parents and the kids will be okay, and there's lots of support there for them, and I'm glad for that.
So you checked everywhere. You went to Lowe's, you went here. What was going through your mind?
My heart was in my chest. I was praying for the best. I know that there was a lot of unknowns. Parents were freaking out. They were wanting to know answers, and of course, it takes time to get that information. And so we were just patiently waiting by. They were giving us water and just trying to do the process, getting names, trying to find out, is this kid on the bus? Did they make it to school? What's happening? And so we were just waiting to find out. And some parents were there, and they were releasing the kids back to their parents if they were being medically checked out, of course, first, and advised to, maybe go check with their pediatricians, make sure everything was okay, and watch for signs of this, that, and the other. And that's pretty much what was going on there.
And what was going on in the office? I mean, were there a lot of parents walking in there?
Talking, trying to find out what was going on, trying to, get an answer as to, more information. Maybe they don't know everything. Maybe they don't follow social media. I didn't even hear anything about it on the news. I just, like I said, my partner called me, and then I found out on my phone, and then I just went down there, and it's kind of chaotic. It was like a bad dream almost, because there was so many personnel, so many, flashing lights, so many ambulances, but a lot of support staff. So that I hats off to the folks for that.
Everything you think was handled okay?
I think so. The broadcast was probably a little bit, I didn't listen to it all. All I just heard was, the safety of your students is the most important. There was an accident involving a Bailey Middle School bus, and then I just kind of flew down at that point. I was like, okay, I'm going to go down there and ask questions later.
And so what grade is your daughter in?
She's in 7th, and she's there in her classroom. And the only thing I'm worried about is, these are her friends, her classmates, her schoolmates, and everybody, whether they were involved in it directly or not, is going to be directly, indirectly involved in it, because they have a friend that was injured in this accident, and they're going to have to, be comforting them and dealing with that process. So it's hard for everybody. I mean,
Morning at about
she's okay. Anything else you wanted to add?
We had a civilian vehicle that hit one of our school buses. The school bus had approximately 48 students on board with one driver. The bus ended up on his side. The driver reacted very quickly by getting students off the bus and getting medical attention to the scene. Total of 16 people were transported for medical observation. We have one fatal, not on the bus, it was in the vehicle, and then we have one critical, minor, not on the bus, that was also in the vehicle. We do not have any updates at this point on that particular minor that was transported. We're happy to report at this point all students have been accounted for, either at the school or with their parents or at the hospital. Once again, what you saw was a unified command with all local law enforcement jurisdictions, Las Vegas Metropolitan, school police, highway patrol, Clark County Fire, Las Vegas Fire. We also want to send kudos out to our local partners, Lowe's, who helped out with getting items that we needed to make sure that everybody was comfortable. Thank you all for your patience. This could have been worse, but at this time, we're happy to report that all students have been accounted for, and one fatality at this point, not on the bus. Okay.
What's going to happen to the bus driver?
The bus driver, of course, at this time would receive excellent care. There will be counseling available for the driver. As far as any disciplinary or anything like that, that's nothing that I can speak to. I don't think that that's the case at this point. Our biggest point is to make sure that we send good thoughts to the bus driver. I'm sorry.
Did the minor in the white car go to Bailey Middle School?
No.
Okay, do we know if she went to a local?
We're not releasing that information at this time.
Okay. Anything else you can tell us about the bus driver, her experience?
Nothing about her experience at this time. The biggest thing that we can say about the driver responded with excellent care. The driver responded quickly. We are celebrating the driver at this time.
Was the driver of the white car at fault?
That will be determined by the investigation.
I spoke with a student who said that when the car hit the bus, the driver actually panicked and one of the students assisted with steering. Can you guys confirm that?
No, I can't confirm any of that at this point. That'll be information that'll be confirmed by the investigation. Bottom line is that the bus driver at this point, we're celebrating. We're celebrating the driver at this point.
Do you know how much longer you're going to be affecting traffic out here for your investigation?
Las Vegas Metropolitan Traffic will be out doing the investigation. It'll probably be for quite a few hours.
Now, how is it for first responders when it comes to children? How emotional is that to respond to that scene?
Well, it's very emotional. We're parents. Some of us have kids that are in school. So when we respond as if it's ours, just like any type of response.
So we're not sure if someone ran a red light or what happened?
That'll be a part of the investigation.
Have you talked to the principal at Bailey Middle School? What's going on over there?
Bailey is going on the day as normal as possible. To all parents that are watching at this point, if your son or daughter was affected by this, the school will always provide counseling for those students. Okay, this is our last brief, and the next brief will come later on, not today, will come from the Fatal team once they complete their investigation. Thank you guys again for all of your patience. Have a great day.
All right, returning back now to our live picture from Chopper 13 up over the scene there, getting some clarification right now. The latest numbers involving this school bus crash, we understand 15 people total transported to the hospital. We have 1 fatality and 1 critically injured. That is a minor. The fatality and the minor who was critically injured were inside the white vehicle, not on board the school bus. And our anchor, Beth Fisher, right there is at the scene. Let's go out to Beth. Beth, what can you tell us?
Yeah, just to give you a different perspective here, let me get out of the way. So the rest of the media is all located on the northwest corner of Cary and Nellis. We decided to move over here to the southeast side to get a different perspective, and you can see that white car and all of the orange cones that Metro is putting out as they continue their investigation. Now, when I first arrived at this corner of the intersection, investigators were talking with 2 women who had witnessed the entire thing. One of those women told me she didn't feel comfortable giving an interview, but according to her, the bus driver was not at fault. Now, if we keep panning over to the school bus, I want to give you guys the view of the school bus from here. I just spoke with 2 men who said they got to the scene right after the accident happened when the children were still on the bus. They said before any adults were even able to race over and help, children were piling out of the roof of the bus, both of those hatches, and piling out of the back of the school bus, which you're looking at right now. And they told me that the older children were the ones helping the youngers off the bus. So hero kids here, a big part of the story. They were sharing with me that that the kids were encouraging the others who were still on the bus, who were frightened and maybe didn't want to come out. They were standing there saying, "Come on out, we've got you, it's okay." And so they said before they even had an opportunity to run over, the kids were taking care of the scene. Obviously, we've heard some great things about the bus driver as well. And then they said within seconds, first responders were here to help. So some amazing kids on that school bus today, and I'm sure they'll have a lot of stories to tell their parents tonight. So again, I'm reporting to you live from the southeast side of Cary and Nellis, just offering a different perspective. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Beth Fisher, thank you so much for that perspective. Also want to update, again, we're being told that of the students who were taken to the hospital, they should have moderate or non-life-threatening injuries. As that also includes the bus driver. So that is the good news here in all of this morning.
Definitely. I think we have Tom George standing by, and he's over at Bailey Middle School. I don't know if we're going to get an update from him. Hey, Tom.
Hey guys, well yeah, we're here at Bailey Middle School, and we've still seen a steady trickle of parents coming in. A lot of them saw this on the news, they got some of the text messages, and they just rushed in their cars over here. They tell us the office here has been swamped with parents wanting to know if their kids were okay, but they do tell us that they were able to communicate with the parents who did have children on that bus, but we talked to some who didn't have students on the bus, but they say they were still just as concerned. One of them was even supposed to be on that bus, but instead she was at a friend's house last night, but they say they have friends on that bus and they were very concerned by what's going on. But for right now, school is back in session right now. Everything is considered normal for right now because everything's being handled off-site at the crash scene, dealing with people involved. But unless you were involved in that, everybody else is back to school, but obviously a lot of upset parents and concerned students, just because, of course, a lot of them have friends on those buses. But again, for right now, things are back to normal here at the school. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Tom, George, thank you. Let's take another live look right now at Chopper 13, Dana. And what do you see here?
Yeah, well, I was talking about when the fatal detail investigates an accident like this. Obviously, that's the process that they are in right now. Here at 11:35, the accident happened at 8:30, and you can see them setting down those little cones. And what they're doing is basically determining the path of the vehicles and who went which way. And this is how they kind of figure out what went wrong, who's at fault. Take their measurements, and that's what they're doing right now, and that's what we're seeing from Chopper 13. So obviously at the very beginning stages here, but you can kind of see when you look at those orange cones the pattern of which way the vehicles were going. When we turn around, we'll come back and look at this. Maybe we can take a closer look at the intersection and see what police are gathering and what direction the vehicle was going in that actually hit the bus, because that's what witnesses are saying at this point.
Yeah, and again, just looking from those tire tracks in the sand there, it appears that truck just, the school bus directly veered off the road, went through that fence, and then flipped onto its side. Now, we did hear from a mom earlier who said that her, I believe, son or daughter, I can't remember, described that bus flipping several times. But again, that's information we have yet to confirm. But again, right now, the investigation is just really in its early stages as they try and figure out exactly what went wrong here this morning. Let's go over now to Yasmin. And I understand, Yasmin, you have some information right now and some sound from when this first thing unfolded at around 8:30 this morning.
That's right. I want to go over to the Breaking News Center because we're just getting new sound into the newsroom. We're now hearing what was happening just moments after the crash was reported. Listen to what was going over to the scanner.
Hey, unit, have them medical get the ones that are trapped in the car. The bus driver's okay for right now, for another range.
So it sounded like they were saying that the bus driver is okay. We do know that the bus driver was being treated at UMC, again, expected to be okay, but that was scanner sound that we heard just after the crash right around 8:30 this morning.
All right, thanks so much, Yasmin. Sorry, we're just talking about some pictures that we're getting in of actually one of the students that was sent to the hospital. We'll get that up in just a minute. But again, Chopper 13 over the crash site right now, where police continue to investigate fatal detail out there because someone did die during the crash. And you can see them putting out the little orange cones, doing their measurements here and trying to determine which direction each vehicle went in, where they exactly collided, how the bus ended up on its side.
Now, and according to the update we just received, now correct me if I misunderstood this, but I believe the update we have is that there were 48 students who were on board the bus at the time. And so when you consider that many kids on the bus and you look at that bus and you think that they are all going to be okay, you know, is such a good bit of information right now that sort of the highlight, if you could say, of what happened there is that no students, including also the bus driver, appear to be seriously injured.
Right. Looking at this scene, though, I mean, as we said, I mean, it's obviously horrific, but it could have been so much worse. We did just speak with a parent who said, you know, I mean, it's interesting to hear parents say, well, my son's getting an MRI, he's in and out of consciousness, he has a hole in his cheek, but she seems so relieved that that's it.
Right, and the emotion of the parents and the children involved obviously is a major, major part of the story, and we're going to hear from some of that sound right now.
But I had to see my children. I am so sorry to the parents, the bus driver involved, and the other driver. I'm sure this isn't something anyone expected.
All right, and then we've got another apparently interview or soundbite, I believe, from another parent.
I needed to see proof that my kids were okay. And for all the parents out there, update your emergency information. Have someone to contact you. For the parents who are just finding out, looking at the news, these are your babies, man.
Quite the morning there. Earlier we heard from a woman who had 4 children involved in this school bus crash, 4 children who are actually on board the bus at the time. She said that at least 2 of them are going to be just fine. They're up and walking. They're okay. But she described her oldest, a 14-year-old son, whose tooth apparently had gone through his cheek, and she describes him as being, quote, in and out of consciousness. It has been quite the morning for so many parents, again, for the students at Bailey Middle School as they try and figure out what happened, and they're trying to reunite with their children to make sure they're okay. It has been a morning that no parent ever wants to get that phone call. Right. No parent ever wants to hear your child's school bus was involved in a crash, let alone a parent who had 4 children on the bus at the time.
Yeah, and she was saying her daughter called her screaming and crying, saying they had been in a crash, that her brother was hurt, and so obviously a very traumatic situation. She was very relieved that her kids are okay, and actually she has also provided us a picture of one of the kids, her kids that were injured, and we're going to try and get that up, and we're also going to hear from her again. We want to play that interview for you again, because she really paints a picture of kind of the panic, but also the relief showing up to the hospital and up to the scene. So we'll have that for you in just a little bit, but it's interesting. People are actually sending me tweets about that interview saying, life is a gift. When life hits hard, tomorrow is not promised, and echoing her words as they watch this coverage today, because, as we said, 48 students on board. This could have been much worse.
Yeah, it was so dramatic, and that's exactly what she said, right? She said, hug your loved ones, because tomorrow is never promised. And unfortunately, the driver of that white car, that is all too true, as we're being told. The driver of this car that you're looking at there on your screen was killed. Witnesses describe the driver only as a woman. We don't have any more information about her at this hour. And we understand that her one passenger was also critically injured, taken to UMC. We understand that is a child or a minor. Yeah. We don't have an exact age right now as far as the other person who was involved in the crash, who was in the car at that time. A difficult situation today.
Yeah, definitely, because you think about the passenger being a minor, and then you assume, obviously, the driver would be an adult. So whether it was a friend or a parent, that minor lost someone in their life today as well. I don't know. We have the chopper circling around that intersection. I don't know if we can push into more the center of Cary and Nellis, where they have all those orange cones down to show what they're doing there, taking those measurements to kind of see what happened. I saw we were over that area, and I was looking, and you can just see the pattern of the crisscrossing of the lanes, and it kind of paints a little bit of a picture of exactly what happened here as they continue to investigate. But it's right in the middle of the intersection, just like that witness described, that the car was going through, hit the bus as well. So you can see all the measurements there down on the ground. And this is what they'll do over the next couple of hours here as they continue to investigate.
All right, our anchor Leslie Marine right now is also live there at the scene. Let's go to Leslie.
Todd, like Dana was saying, a lot of what's happening right now is over in this area, in this intersection, where you see investigators now staging what has happened to really figure out here what did happen with these 48 kids on this school bus, as well as that car that was carrying 2 people, including 1 minor. Now, we did see a lot of reunions about an hour ago. Police, CCSD police telling us that all kids have been accounted for. They have now been reunited with their families. We do know 14 people on that bus were taken to the hospital, none with very serious conditions. As for that car here, we do know 1 person has died, and another young person was taken to the hospital in critical condition. Now, we believe we have spoken to someone that's related to that family in that white car. We had asked police if that minor in that car did go to Bailey Middle School, and they say they did not. We did talk to a man that was here on scene saying that he was related to that family. He's telling us that he believes that was his mother-in-law who was killed, as well as possibly a 10-year-old little girl. We are trying to gather more information from police and trying to confirm that information right now. He was rushing off to the hospital, though, the last time we spoke to him. So as you can see, this investigation is going to continue on here. CCSD police telling us they're not giving any more updates today, but we will have to wait on fatal detail to really tell us how this all occurred. Reporting live, Leslie Manning, 13 Action News.
All right, Leslie, thank you for that update right there. Leslie telling us now that all the parents have been reunited with their children, so that's at least some good news there, as those parents finally reconnect with their kids, and what a moment that must have been.
Yeah, definitely. Parker's been outside the hospital, and he's been seeing parents come and go. Obviously, emotions very high. He even visited with a student who was let out of the hospital, had some glass in his knee, and that was really the extent of his injury. So obviously some more serious than others. A wide range of injuries, but they seem to be moderate, nothing too serious besides the passenger of the white vehicle who's in critical condition.
All right, let's take a moment here and just sort of recap what we know. This was a school bus crash that happened at 8:30 this morning, right at the intersection there of Nellis and Cary. Taking a live look right now of that intersection. We're being told that 48 students were on board this bus. It was heading to Bailey Middle School this morning when it was involved in a crash with a white vehicle. Now, of those 48 students, we're being told their ages really range between 11 and 16 years old. We do know that 14 children were transported to the hospital, and one person was killed, the driver of that white car, and the passenger in that white car was critically injured.
Right, and who's also a minor. And we don't know the age of the driver who did die, but people were saying she, so we assume obviously a female that was killed there at the scene. Obviously, we have live pictures right now of the investigators out there trying to figure out what exactly happened here. We've listened to some people say they saw what happened in witness accounts, but obviously their job is to figure out exactly what happened and who was at fault here. But a lot of witnesses saying that the bus was just traveling along through the light and that the car kind of came out of nowhere. And so we'll get all that determined once they decide.
Yeah, we just saw that live picture outside of UMC. Our reporter Parker Collins has been out there for much of the morning. He is telling us that what he is hearing, and this is the good news here, is that the majority of the students, including also the bus driver, are going to be okay. That they have either moderate to minor injuries. However, we did hear from that one mom who has the four children involved who were in that bus at the time, saying that her 14-year-old son's tooth apparently came through his cheek. Now, that is the most serious injury that we've heard being described as far as students who were involved in that or on board that bus. And right now we're taking a picture here of what we believe is the 14-year-old son.
Yeah, I believe his mother sent this into our newsroom, and we've had permission to use it here, but this is what he looks like. And as we said, as far as injuries are concerned, this seems to be the worst at this point, but she, the mom, so relieved that he is in and out of consciousness, and she was able to talk to him and that he is going to be okay.
Yeah, and mom identifies her son as a 14-year-old Tiandre Jones. You saw there he was in a neck brace. She describes him as being in and out of consciousness. She says that he keeps on crying when he sort of thinks about what happened here this morning. And you just got to think about so many other children who are on board right now who are going through such emotional distress right now as they try and cope with what just happened. Again, we do have one person right now who is in critical condition, but that person was inside that vehicle there. As far as the people who were on board the bus, we're being told their injuries are either moderate, minor, or certainly non-life-threatening.
Right. We're going to go out to Tom George. He's live at Bailey Middle School. This is the school where the bus was taking all those students to report for the day. Tom?
That's right, and that bus was supposed to pull in right here, but that never happened. But the other buses did, and things are going smoothly right now. But that didn't stop some concerned parents from wanting to check on how their kids are doing. Obviously, when they saw this on the news, when they got those messages, they were very concerned, wondering, was my kid involved? And so a lot of them say they just jumped in their cars and hustled over here. And they say the office was swarmed with people trying to make sure their kids were okay. We actually caught up with a few of them as they were leaving.
Stops and he brakes fast sometimes, and sometimes kids jump up and throw papers, and a lot of them do it.
Okay. Is it the same bus driver every day?
Yeah, and sometimes he's kind of mean. Yeah.
We've had lots of complaints about the bus drivers.
And that mother and daughter that you see there, she was that daughter was actually supposed to be on that bus this morning, and her mom was panicking, wondering if she was on that bus. But then she remembered that she was actually having a sleepover at a friend's house and had a different way to get to school. But as you heard from that little girl there that goes to this school, she says she's ridden on that bus before and has sometimes been worried about safety, saying that sometimes the bus would break too quickly and that there are a lot of kids on that bus. Of course, she's obviously concerned as well for all her friends that ride the bus with her, trying to make sure that they're okay. So she was actually pulled out of school by her mom, and they want to say that, you know, if any of their friends are impacted by this and they need any help, they're there for them. But obviously a lot of emotion here at school. Even though things are back to normal, a lot of people have friends and kids that were on that bus. So things, everybody that was involved pretty much at this point has been notified, and we still are seeing a few people coming to check on their kids if they are okay. But if they are here at school, it means they are fine. But certainly a lot of parents catching their breath, trying to make sure that their kids are okay. But again, for right now, everything at the school, at least for now, is back to normal, and the kids are in class. We'll send it back to you guys.
All right, Tom, George, thank you for that much information. We should make it clear right now, we don't know who exactly was at fault concerning this crash right now. That investigation really just beginning.
Right. Looking at a shot from Chopper 13, and you can see the two big tow trucks there. It looks like they're probably going to lift the bus up at some point once they're done, you know, investigating around that area. They don't want to move anything just yet, but you can see they brought in those two big trucks there that'll probably pull the bus up. It's obviously on its side, and pull it upright, and then they'll tow it out of there.
Yeah, so this investigation now, they're going to try and figure out exactly the speed of both the bus and the car at the time of the crash. But that is going to take some time to sort of reconstruct exactly what happened here.
Yeah, we've been watching them investigate. We've watched the intersection. So gosh, it's been closed down since the accident at 8:30, and it's going to be closed down for a long time this morning. If you're traveling through there as we approach here, lunch hour, avoid it. It's completely shut down, and it will be for a while.
Yeah, you just look at the formation of these cones right now for Chopper 13, sort of highlighting the skid marks, or I should say the tire marks in the sand. And just from that, I'm going to guess that the bus did not flip over, and instead just maybe flipped on its side. So perhaps that's a point of clarification right now. And we do have also with us a 13 Action News crime and safety expert, Randy Sutton, with us right now here on set. And I know you're just joining us and trying to get up to speed, but take us through this process now with police there on the scene. What is it that they're trying to figure out?
Well, since this is a fatal accident, the fatal detail of the Metro Traffic Unit will be handling this. The fatal detail handles a great many because, unfortunately, the Valley has a lot of fatal accidents, and they do an accident reconstruction. They have a great deal of expertise in determining how the impact occurred, and they get that information from measuring skid marks, the yaw marks, which they're called, of the sideways movement of the tires, and they are very adept at doing the accident reconstruction, which will make a determination about what took place and determining who was at fault, and then what the if there is any impairment. What was the cause of the accident?
Yeah, and I don't know if they could hear us up in Chopper, but we see those cones, those orange cones. Can we see the point of origin so we can sort of backtrack these orange cones? Where do they begin? Do they begin right in the middle of the intersection? Because perhaps, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, that would indicate the point of original contact perhaps being right in the middle of that controlled intersection. There's a traffic light there. I don't know if Chopper could keep on going in that direction.
Right. Yeah. You can tell by the cone pattern there that they're delineating a certain pattern, and so the traffic investigators that are there, the fatal investigators that are there, are trying to determine what was the point of impact. Did it occur within the intersection? Was it a controlled intersection? And this is all part of trying to determine the causation and also the determination of fault. Was it because of impairment? Was it because of disregarding a signal? Was it because somebody was texting? Right. All these things have to play into the investigation, and it's it's a critical investigation. It's very time consuming.
All right, and thank you. You're sort of breaking down the technical aspect of what's happening now, but obviously there's a very large emotional content to what sort of took place today. And earlier we heard from a mom who had 4 children on this bus at the time of the crash this morning. I am being told we do have that sound queued up. Let's listen to her again, tell her story.
He's in and out of consciousness. His face is messed up. They're going to try and do stitches. His tooth went through his mouth, so he has a hole in his cheek.
There's a picture that she actually sent into our newsroom of her son. She did mention something about the possibility of an MRI. He is in and out of consciousness, like she just said there. And obviously she, though, is relieved at this point that he is going to be okay. Her other kids seem to be okay as well, but she said very panicked and very upset.
Yeah, and from what Parker Collins is reporting there at UMC, that appears to be, at least as of right now, among the more serious injuries concerning the students who were on board the bus at the time. But again, that is just basic preliminary information. We'll kind of wait to see as the story continues to develop. But Parker Collins describing a lot of the students who were on board that bus at the time as being able to walk around, some minor cuts and bruises, things of that nature, including the bus driver. They seem to be okay. Now, we did also hear the issue of seatbelts, right? So we hear this so often now with school bus crashes, whether or not seatbelts are mandatory. And as we understand it, that here in the state of Nevada, seatbelts are not required for students, but required for the bus driver.
Right, and some buses actually, always have the seatbelts. I know there was a requirement to have the kids have an option if they wanted to wear them. So obviously we're going to look more into that today. We actually did a couple reports on that just recently. So we're going to clear all that up for everyone too, that probably all these questions are running through their head right now. Even this mom that came out of UMC said there's been a lot of school bus crashes lately, it's upsetting. So we're going to take a look at that, of course. And the mom, though, obviously very relieved at this point that her kids are okay. Randy, obviously they take a little bit extra time and care when it involves this many people, right?
Yeah, this is an interesting investigation for them because the unusual circumstances involving a school bus. You can tell by the bus that it is on its side, so but I don't think that was because of the impact. Judging by what I'm seeing, it from the speed that it came around and went into the dirt, that's probably what caused it to flip over, because you can see that there is not a great deal of impact on the school bus itself, which is why there are minimal injuries to this. When there's a great deal of crushing force, that's where the injuries that take place to the passengers would be much more severe.
And Randy, help us out. When you take a look at that school bus, we're sort of been going back and forth here because it looks like it just flipped on its side as opposed to maybe rolling over. Can you tell? Because I was seeing it doesn't appear like to be a lot of damage on the side that's sort of facing up as well as the roof of the bus.
And you can, if that had done a complete somersault or over roll, there would be much more substantial injuries.
Right. Yeah, I mean, obviously there were 48 kids on the bus, and then the bus driver, that's the number that they've come up with total. So obviously a lot of investigating here. We're going to go out to Leslie Marin, who's at the scene right now, get a quick update. Okay, sorry, we lost her live shot. But gosh, we thank you for watching us. We hope that we have provided parents and our community with a lot of important information today.
Yeah, we're going to hang here about 2 more minutes or so, but let's sort of recap sort of what we know at this hour. About 8:30 this morning, there was a school bus involved in a serious deadly crash there right at the intersection of Nellis and Cary. One person was killed. We understand that to be the driver of the vehicle, the car involved in this crash. 12 kids on that bus were taken to the hospital. Good news there. Their injuries appear to be minor or non-life-threatening. Let's go back out now to Leslie, who is ready for us. Go ahead, Leslie. What can you tell us?
You hearing anything?
Yeah, it looks like Leslie's still having a little trouble hearing us. So, but of course, we will continue to get information from her and keep you posted at ktnv.com. We've got about a minute left until the coverage on air starts, but we are always online. Remember, we've got a Twitter page, we have a Facebook page, and of course, ktnv.com that we keep constant live feeds going. We bring in pictures and coverage from all our reporters.
Obviously, a very scary, emotional scene that played out here this morning in our community. We can only say, thankfully, it wasn't worse, but certainly with one family involved with the driver of that car, it is the worst possible news. But I guess when you look at the school bus and consider that 48 students were on board at the time, things certainly could have been much, much worse.
Yeah, our thoughts and prayers out there to the families and the students over at Bailey Middle School. It sounds like the school district and police and emergency crews did a great job keeping everyone informed.
All right, stay with us on our website at ktnv.com as well as later editions of 13 Action News for the very latest developments in today's deadly school bus crash.